Hey, hello, welcome to MovieBoozer.com virtual pubcast. I'm your host, Ken Edmond, and I'm joined by Bill Leon.
Fly me to the moon. I don't remember. What are the rest
Sleep
of the lyrics
under
of
your
that?
gigantic police-sized mustache.
Oh, okay. I need
And-
them pelts. Give me my pelts as my livelihood.
All right,
I ain't got no life. I ain't got no living.
All I got is these pelts.
What living you talking about? What
I
life
just
you
love.
talking about?
I
just
do
got
love them. Pelts.
no, he doesn't have life. He has living. That's what it is.
I don't got no living. Pelts.
Most of the time, pelts is like the one word you can make out.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, and it's the way he says it. It has a pop to it when he says
Yeah.
Pelts.
I shot Nate that son bitch.
You could make up all. Tom Hardy it's weird. He does weird accents in his movies, and they're almost always entertaining.
Mhm.
I mean, look at Mad Max. In Mad Max, he's basically his voice is really.
I don't even remember him. I remember his face from Mad Max, but he didn't do much, and he's like the least memorable thing in that movie.
Well, and to be fair, Max was always just kind of the audience's character. You follow him through a bunch of weird stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But that said, we haven't even introduced it. This is our best of and worst of 2015 episode.
Oh, and I'm Bill Arsenault.
Yeah, and you're Bill Arsenault.
I thought he said that already. But we're
No, he
also
didn't.
talking The Witch first, right?
Yes, we'll go ahead and do a run through of The Witch.
We got The Witch, and I want to do a very brief review of Netflix Love, and then we're good to do the list.
So first of all, who here has seen The Witch?
The Witch, I did not.
The Witch.
The Vitch. Yeah, we should probably mention real quickly that on the poster and in some reviews,
Mhm.
the Witch is spelled with two V's.
I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't get it either. I think it's just a look thing, like a design choice.
Well,
Look how cool this is. Fan 4 stick. We're changing the way titles go.
Well, that said, I do know that I'm not an expert with linguistics, but I'm pretty sure that V was once a stand-in. Like when you put two V's together, it was like a W, and U didn't exist always. So usually, so V was sometimes used in place of that. And
Oh, okay.
so I think it might be going for that old-timey kind of aspect. Once again, I'm no expert, but it's that's what the sense that I get out of it.
It certainly helps give an unsettling mood just from looking at the poster.
Mhm.
You know, the witch, and then you see that goat, and it's like, oh.
Well, first of all, I want to say we are. I really want to have a spoiler conversation about this film, but
give us spoiler-free first, and
Yeah.
then, yeah.
I want Bill Leon to see this movie before I spoil it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Oh, yeah, okay. I've heard some spoilers, but not like big ending type spoilers.
Right,
Well,
right.
it's not like an earth-shattering type thing. It's not like, oh my God, she's his father or something.
Yeah, let me put it this way. It's not a shocking, spoilery kind of ending, but it is the kind of ending where if I told you what happened, it would kind of... It wouldn't help you enjoy the movie. Let's just say that. Needless to say, the movie is about a family, that moves out into the wilderness because they are basically banished from the Puritan village.
Settlement,
The Puritan settlement. They're banished because of religious differences that the father has between what the elders practice and what he practices.
Now, this isn't like The Village, right, where the twist is that it was modern day the whole time?
No, I promise you, there is no M. Night Shyamalan style twist.
Oh no, this is actually clever.
Mm-hmm.
So
and genuinely scary. Although The Sixth Sense was but
No, it wasn't.
well, okay, but
So the
Well,
family-
to be fair, I haven't watched the whole thing, but I watched the first 20 minutes, and I was just completely flatlining. Every time the movie wanted me to feel things, I was just like,
like, why is Donnie Wahlberg naked and emaciated?
I hated that. That was, and people were like freaked out by that. I was like, this is silly looking.
That would
Yeah.
make it like the only time Donnie Wahlberg has ever been convincing in something.
I liked him in Saw 2.
Okay, I admit that I have not seen Saw 2.
I liked him in Saw 2.
Yeah,
That's
well,
what I said.
it's
I
like
liked him in New Kids on the Block.
I like
Yeah,
Stephen
really.
Baldwin in The Usual Suspects. He's in 3 minutes of it.
The
But,
right stuff.
So with that said, the family moves out to the woods, and
Yeah.
they find a clearing in the woods that it would be perfect for them to build their little household farm.
It should be mentioned too. It's kind of a big family. It's a husband, the father character who has the religious beliefs. It's the wife and a son, a daughter, and a pair of twins.
Yes.
Who
Now
are,
the
who are
twins are
also a son and daughter.
the twins are born though after they leave, aren't they? Or are they still?
Were they?
There's no
I don't
grandma?
know.
Well, no. Okay, maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe not.
There
maybe
was
they're-
a baby that they had.
What happens to the baby?
Like a newborn baby that they have, but that I think was born after they've built
right.
their little home. But
That's why I'm getting. And now it's not a spoiler because the trailer even shows it. That kind of the moment where things start to kind of happen in the movie is when the baby disappears. The trailer does give that away.
Right.
Now, I'm not going to say why the baby disappears, but
right. Well, the incident that happens in the trailer is the main daughter who's beginning to grow into her own. She's kind of like developing and all that stuff. She's playing with the baby and
doing peekaboo.
Doing peekaboo near the woods, not in the woods, just near the woods. And then as she does the last peekaboo thing, the baby.
That's a different movie there. Peekaboo in the Woods.
Well, right. As she does the last peekaboo thing, the baby disappears, and that's the last they see of it.
Right.
And that kicks off the story proper.
That's an interesting concept, right? Because people do that with their kids, right? If you were to do that and then the kid is gone, like that's a really interesting like horror movie concept.
Right, especially because there's no evidence. There's nothing you can do really. You're left completely neutral,
And you have to remember, this is Puritan colonial America, and so we're dealing with very kind of paranoid religious fanatics.
Like Quakers.
Yeah,
And
you're dealing with a heavy culture of fear.
So right off the bat, the oldest sister feels hugely guilty because she was responsible for this baby, and the baby disappeared in the most ridiculous of ways. I mean, just she has no excuse, and the mother immediately just puts all that blame on her, and you can feel just that blame seethe. She doesn't like outright shout it out. The mother's just kind of more crying all the time and is a little angry with her, but
You can tell she's kind of doing a version of shunning her a little bit.
But over time, as the film goes on and events get more and more creepy, more and more blame starts getting shifted onto this the eldest daughter, to the point where her life is in danger.
Yeah.
And it really it becomes truly worrying, and the tension builds and builds, and it reaches a peak that in this series of events that are just I don't want to spoil it, so I'll just say just ridiculously tense.
Tense is a key word here. It is a very intense, but also tense, just nerve-wracking movie. There's this constant feeling of I think I wrote in my review that we don't feel that we're identifying with their Puritan beliefs, but we're identifying with their paranoia a little bit, that something is out there, that something is kind of out to get them, whether it be, it could be anything, really. It could be animals, it could be, whatever, and evil.
It could be one of them, it could be something completely different. And even when you do see evidence of what it is, you don't quite believe it. You almost wonder if that is some sort of
manifestation of something else. Yeah.
Right, so it's a movie that really does keep you asking questions, and meanwhile, these characters are just so well drawn. My favorite character, I admit, it's because I do have a bias. I've enjoyed this actor in so many roles. Ralph Ineson plays the elder, the father William.
The eldest father.
Yeah, the oldest father, right? Yeah, the father William.
The father.
And he
has such a deep and distinct voice, doesn't he?
Yeah. Well, he's been in a lot of stuff. He's one of those character actors who gets roles specifically because of his voice, and because he's not a classically good-looking person. He has kind of a unique face. Some things you've seen him in recently. He was in Kingsman. He was in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh.
He was in. Let's see.
Wait, who did he play in Guardians of the Galaxy?
It was a small role. He was listed as one of the Ravager pilots, so he's one of the pilots of those.
Oh, he was just okay, all right.
But I remember seeing him in the movie, and he's been in a lot of British television. He was in actually both of the Harry Potter Deathly Hallows films.
Okay.
And let's see, what else? Oh, The Office. That's right. He had a role in the British Office.
Oh yeah, and that's where I knew him from.
Who does he play on The Office?
He played in the British version of The Office. He played the version. He played their version of Todd Packer.
Yeah. I'm not familiar with the American Office. I'm only really familiar with the British.
Okay,
Office.
he played Finchy, the guy who was like the obnoxious friend of David Brent.
That's him. That dude's fucking awesome.
He's like when they have the Shakespeare contest or whatever, the trivia night, and he's like, well, for example, throwing is a better sport than Shakespeare knowledge.
He's the guy that David Brent tells to fuck off at the end.
Yeah, he's that guy. His voice has like several decibels deeper than normal voices. It's really interesting.
That dude's fucking hilarious on The Office.
He also had a great role on Game of Thrones, by the way. His character in Game of Thrones is named Dagmere Cleftjaw, which is, by the way, an amazing name.
It sounds like a pirate or something.
Oh yeah, well
It's like a rejected Game of Thrones name, or like somebody's Game of Thrones roleplay name, like their OC.
Like the roleplay name in bed, like with their wife. You know?
No, I meant like LARPing.
Oh, that kind of thing. Okay.
Well, anyway, his character, what makes his character fascinating as the father is, on one hand, he's a deeply religiously devout person, but there are hypocrisies within him that build on each other. For one thing, as much as he sees himself as a pious man, he has a lying streak in him. For instance, he sold a silver cup that he used to purchase some additional seeds in order to continue farming, and the silver cup, something like that, and the silver cup belonged to his wife, but he didn't tell his wife that he sold it, and in fact, he kind of let his wife believe that the eldest daughter misplaced it.
And when his son kind of tells a fib as well, he notices it, but he lets it slide. He kind of is almost like, good job, kind of thing. I think he thinks he's doing the right thing by keeping his family thinking that everything's okay. It's like his way of doing that. But that's his justification. But it does conflict with his very strict beliefs.
And the hypocrisy of it really does build upon it, and it ends up being his undoing to an extent, and that's one thing that's really fascinating. And and every character in this has sins, and the sins that they have are what's that?
I was about to say that's a big component of this movie is the concept of the early days concept of sin and shame. Like he's constantly saying, we were born from sin, we were born into sin, we die into sin. He's basically like, it's this doom and gloom concept of being a child of God. Like you can never be that good enough. You know what I mean?
Oh, and
despite the fact that Jesus died for you, you are not good enough, never will be good enough, and you should always pay tribute, that kind of thing. And it's like those are some expectations you can never meet,
And especially, there's a religious conversation in the movie that actually kind of made me the family are depicted as Puritans who kind of broke away from the rest of society, and there's a hint that his family kind of has a Jehovah's Witness sort of streak in them, because there's a religious conversation he has with his oldest son, in which his oldest son is talking about going to heaven, and he's asking questions about, how do I know that I'm going to go to heaven?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the beliefs of the Jehovah's Witnesses is that there is no one on heaven or earth who knows that whether they are one of the preordained, but they have a preset number that they've taken from Scripture, is that there's 144,000 people throughout history who are going to be in heaven.
That's pretty rough,
Yeah. And if you're not one of those, if no matter what you do, there's nothing in heaven and earth that's going to let you go to heaven unless you're one of the anointed.
And the kid even brings up, like, well, what about our newborn baby? What about, he hasn't done anything.
Exactly. That's because the baby disappears, and so the boy's worried. He's thinking, the baby didn't have a chance to repent for his sins or anything like that. So what chances does he have in going to heaven? And the father tries to comfort his son by saying, I can't tell you whether the baby's in heaven. I can't tell you whether you're going to heaven. I can't tell you whether I'm going to heaven. No one here knows.
Eventually, he just tells the son to shut the fuck up, and they just move on.
Now, mind you, all of this is done using dialogue that is incredibly archaic. Yeah. They use... I would compare it to like Shakespearean dialogue, but without a propensity for poetics. It's very much more matter-of-fact dialogue coming from that kind of a language.
Like the New England type era, like they talk about England. They talk about we used to live there, now we live here, So this is the very early days of settlements and colonies and all that.
Right. The feeling I have is that the movie probably takes place sometime in the 15 or 1600s. If 16, probably the very early 1600s.
Yeah.
And so we're talking the early days of settlement. In fact, I just pulled up IMDb just to get some quotes from the movie, just to give an idea of how the language goes.
We're going to get some impersonations here.
And actually... You know what? I'm not going to read them because literally all the quotes on IMDb are total spoilers. Damn it!
That's a shame.
Yeah.
There's some really good dialogue here, and no matter how...
There's a lot of will thoust.
Yes. Yes, it's a lot of... It should be noted, it's very dedicated. The writing and the performances are very dedicated to that language and to the way they talk and how they enunciate, all that stuff.
What they say, the screenwriter and the filmmaker claims that a lot of the dialogue from the movie is pulled from research he did on witches from that time period.
Yeah, in fact, a lot of the stuff in the movie comes from like not just the feeling of paranoia and anxiety and fear, but also just general. Environment, the setting, all that stuff. There's a lot of really cool historical or near historical bits in this film.
Right. This movie, it's funny. If it wasn't a movie about a witch, it would be a very interesting, compelling family drama about colonial America.
Yeah.
And honestly, it could have decided to do that, and it would have worked really well. It's the movie was shot for real cheap. I think the budget was like $1 million or something like that.
Something like that. They couldn't shoot it where they wanted to. They had to go to Canada, but they shot it in a place that was close enough to what they wanted. Like they actually went off the map and went into the woods and shot there. So it's pretty neat that something so small scale could evoke so much. It's always like it's always a pleasant surprise to see that.
So with that said, I think we've kind of talked about the Witch as much as we can without going into spoilers. Billion, as I mentioned, I want you to see this movie, and when you do, we will have a spoiler conversation about it.
Okay.
So next,
So doesn't
Billion,
say it's highly recommended. That's
yes.
Right.
Tell us about Love.
American style.
I hear it's a many-splendored thing.
It's a series primarily by Judd Apatow, Leslie Arfin, and the series star Paul Rust, who this is kind of like the Paul Rust version of like a Woody Allen thing, kind of.
I got that vibe from the trailer.
It's really like that. It pays off, I think. Like it's really humble. There's a few parts where I actually laughed out loud at it. If you've seen the trailer, the bits with the Blu-ray. Actually, one thing I will say, like a lot of the shit in the trailer, like I didn't find amusing in the trailer, but in context, watching the show was really funny.
Like this Blu-ray taught me this, and he tosses it out the window.
That stuff was fine. But no, actually, there's a part where him and his ex-girlfriend are arguing about how physical media is dead and you can stream everything, and he's like, they have special features, you bitch. And that made me laugh.
I love the cast. I mean, besides Paul Rust, Gillian Jacobs, Claudia O'Doherty, you have Brett Gelman. You have
Gelman is really good. Gelman, at first, you think they go back and forth with Gelman, where like first he's kind of a slimeball, and then he's sympathetic, and then he's kind of a slimeball again.
Right. Yeah.
And isn't the ex-girlfriend played by that girl, the actress who's on the AT&T commercials? She's also in the Yahoo show Other Space.
That might be her. Yeah, actually, I don't recall. She's only in the first 2 episodes, I think.
Okay. She's not terribly recurring. Okay.
Actually, well, one of the interesting turns the show takes is Gillian Jacobs' character is sort of I don't know if you want to say recovering, like she's attempting to recover addict, but when they first meet, they smoke some weed, and she's going to take him home, and he accidentally gives her his ex's address, and then that becomes very. I was like, that was very interesting, you know.
And the comedian Kyle Kinane is also listed, and he's in a ton of podcasts I listen to.
Who the fuck is he? Yeah, he was the ex-boyfriend of Gillian Jacobs.
Ah, okay, yeah, because he's appeared a few times on Doug Loves Movies, so that's how I'm familiar with him.
Of course.
So tell me about Love.
It's really good. It's really solid. It's
and Baby Don't Hurt Me, by the way.
What is Love?
What is love?
Yeah. I would definitely recommend it to both of you.
Okay.
Ironically, it doesn't become so much about being together because I don't know if I won't spoil it, but the series is not so much about love as much as it is just about these characters. And
holy shit, Steve Buscemi directed one of the episodes.
Michael Showalter directed one of the episodes.
I see that. Wow. Yeah. Interesting. Okay, yeah, I'm very interested.
It's not something you would really expect to have to not worry about spoilers with, but I think that there's like a lot of mystery there's a lot of will they, won't they, you know, if you've ever, that kind of 90s TV show mentality of will they, won't they, like that's kind of the centerpiece of this.
Yeah, you want to find out if the nanny's going to marry the rich guy, yeah.
It's more of a Sam and Diane thing. No, it's definitely like a Sam and Diane.
I've mentioned 2 pieces of media that feature a goat.
Oh, come on.
Just as long as it's not Green Acres.
Green Acres is the place to be.
That's 3 pieces.
Okay. Fun is the life for me.
I've actually, the ironic thing about me with Paul Rust is that I kind of came into Comedy Bang Bang late. I'm not so much familiar with him from that. I know he was a writer on the TV show for a while, but I know his band, Don't Stop or We'll Die.
Mm-hmm.
And I like a lot of his band's songs. He plays some music in this. Him and his friends get together and write fake titular theme songs to movies that don't have them already, and that leads to some good comedy. A lot of Birthday Boys cameos. 3, I think, of the 5 Birthday Boys are in this, or 6 Birthday Boys, however many of them there. I was excited to see all them, mainly the ones that act, because I love all those guys. I'm so pissed that IFC canceled their show.
Paul Rust is actually the co-writer with Paul Rubens of Pee-wee's Big Holiday, by the way.
And John Lee directing gives me hope for that project. That trailer, did you guys see the trailer for Pee-wee's Big Holiday?
It almost reminded me of Joe Dirt 2.
Yeah.
It's not that bad. I mean,
I don't mean in quality. I mean more like in how it was shot, almost like a TV show, not like a movie.
I think, you know what? I think we'll just let it happen and see.
I'm hoping. Paul Rust and John Lee, the creator of Xavier Renegade Angel, is directing this. So.
Oh goodness. Then it should be awesome.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, John Lee, in case you don't know, is the PFFR guy. He's done a lot of Delocated and Xavier and Wonder Chosen. Wonder Chosen was their big one.
So with that said,
Yes.
do you have anything else to say about Love at this point?
Go watch it. I did not expect to watch the whole series in one sitting, but I could not turn it off.
All right. I will definitely give that a shot. So, the next thing we have to do is probably going to take up most of the rest of the episode. And that is our movies, our top and bottoms.
Yep. So which one are we going with first, best or worst?
Let's get the worst out of the way because that could become depressing.
Right. Well,
We've already talked about these movies to death, too.
Actually, yeah. Let me look at mine.
So how we're gonna do this? We're gonna run through the bottom bottom 5, just list them, and then go on to explaining the top 5 of each.
Yeah, here we go. I will go ahead and read my bottom 5, and then when I'm done, Bill Arsenault, you read your bottom 5, and Bill Leon, you read yours. And if anything jumps at us, we can mention it. Otherwise, we'll move on and we'll talk about okay, I'm sorry. We have our 10s rather, and then we're going to talk about the 5s in each category, best and worst, in more detail. But the 5 through 10, there's no need to go into too much.
Right. Or 6 through 10. Yeah.
6 through 10. Sorry. All right.
That's okay.
So my movies, I'll go ahead and just read through it. Number 10, I had Magic Mike XXL. Number 9, Child 44. Number 8, Fantastic Four. Number 7, Aloha. And number 6, Beyond the Mask.
Oh, okay.
Anyone have any questions about any of those?
Just Magic Mike XXL. I mean, actually, that movie's gotten some praise from some critics. You know.
I admit I did not see Magic Mike 1. But
yeah.
I was in the theater watching it with someone who did, and actually someone who enjoyed it. Zach Jeremiah, co-founder of MovieBooster.com, and his wife, Jong-hee, who loved Magic Mike.
Of course,
Zach enjoyed Magic Mike, and we saw it together because that was her pick. We watched 2 movies that day. One was our pick and one was her pick.
Oh, I thought you guys needed to review it for the site.
The 3 of us, we needed that too, yeah. And the 3 of us were literally the only ones in the theater, by the way. We had that theater to ourselves.
We covered that on it.
We also had a 6-pack of beer.
I'll have to figure out which one it was.
And, yeah, we killed it because that movie was overlong, dull. It has no purpose to exist. The plot is basically non-existent. The dance sequences are well choreographed. That's about all the praise I can give it. But there's just no substance to it. It's literally just, hey, let's go over here. Oh, okay, let's dance.
And before you move on,
whoop, 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 whoop.
And I know this has already been talked about, but and I want to know Bill's too. Is your biggest disappointment Spectre?
I would say easily my biggest disappointment of the year was Spectre, but that didn't make my bottom 10.
Okay, yeah, no, that's why I was just saying, because I have one that is not eligible that is my biggest disappointment, which I'll get to.
we'll talk about that next. All right, Bill Arsenault, give us your 10 through 6.
10 through 6. Number 10, Black Mass. Number 9, Eli Roth presents The Stranger.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a terrible movie. Presents The Stranger. Yeah, I could go into it some more, but it's not really. Yeah.
Keep going.
Number 8, Fantastic Four.
Fantastic.
Fantastic. Number 7, Trumbo, and I know, Ken, you liked it.
We already talked that to death. I won't mention it.
That's okay. Number 6, Pixels.
And what was your biggest disappointment?
Oh my goodness.
Whether or not it doesn't have to be on your list, just anything.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think it would be on my list for something that was that bad, but I don't know. I guess Age of Ultron. I mean, as much as I still kind of like that movie and everything, and I certainly don't think it was a bad movie at all. It was very good. It didn't quite reach the heights of the first Avengers.
It was underwhelming. I would agree with that.
For feature film, I think that would be my pick.
Okay.
Yeah, I should clarify. I've already spoken about Spectre at a great length, so I will only say the reason why is because I definitely made the mistake of building a better film in my head, and the movie didn't make that film. Instead, it made a inferior movie.
So you had different expectations.
Right,
Very specific expectations.
Well, they were specific expectations that would have made an amazing sequel to Skyfall, and unfortunately, it didn't do that. They just said, well, let's just show a bunch of stuff that we think you want to see. Some of it good, a lot of it, and let's hire an amazing villain, an amazing actor to play one of the legendary villains in Bond's canon. But let's give him nothing to do with that position. That would be like hiring Marlon Brando in The Godfather.
Blando.
Yeah, Marlon Blando.
Am I right? Mm-hmm.
So say you had Marlon Brando in The Godfather, and all that you did with him was his character was in those opening scenes. He gets killed and disappears from it. That assassination scene. Imagine he didn't have that whole rest of the movie. Do you think that would have been seen as the most amazing movie of all time, or do you think people would say, "What? Why
waste?
Kind of wasted him." Yeah. So anyway, point being, yeah. All right.
So Bill Leon, what's your 10 through 6?
I cheated always. I put 11 for best of the worst. Cobbler, Boy Next Door, Cool Cat Saves the Kids, best worst movies of the year. Number 10, Gem and the Holograms, which I actually honestly didn't even watch it all when it made the list.
All right.
I don't think I needed to watch it all.
I'm not even going to argue on that.
Do you blame me? Am I a bad critic?
I didn't see it.
I wouldn't call you a bad critic.
Watch 10 minutes of it. You got it. You already know what the fuck it is. You don't need to see any more of it.
It's too bad. I like John Chu.
I
was in and out of the room as my niece was watching it. So anyway, number 9, The Danish Girl. Talk this one to death. And then the next 3 are all bad comedies. Ted 2, Hot Tub Time Machine 2. And this one topped the list for a specific reason, of top the bottom 5. Get Hard, because all they had was prison rape jokes.
Yeah, well.
Well, you keep going back to the well, you poison the well eventually. With rape talk.
Yeah, okay. Well, with that said,
wait. Disappointments. American Ultra is probably my feature film disappointment, taking back Age of Ultron. I was super fucking disappointed with American Ultra. It was on my list at a certain point, but a lot of these movies pushed it off. And then The Last Days of Coney Island. God damn it.
That's a short film, so technically, that's special category.
Well, Billy, I may have just frozen for a second, but
yeah. With that said, then I'll go ahead. I guess it's my turn to begin my.
Did I cut off there?
Yeah, just momentarily, but you're all right.
We got Last Days of Coney Island was your disappointing movie.
And my comment was, God damn it, Ralph Bakshi, I'm done.
So I'm going to go ahead and read my number 5. I actually, since I wrote I think, very good description. I'm going to go ahead and just read it, and then you guys can ask me questions. My number 5, and we'll go around round table. You do your number 5 next.
Sure.
90 Minutes in Heaven, and this is what I wrote about it. There are people out there who still insist that Hayden Christensen actually is a good actor, and the Star Wars prequels were just a result of terrible script, bad direction, and worse editing. Those people have not seen 90 Minutes in Heaven, which is everything
but seen Jumper, right?
Is that 90 Minutes in Heaven is everything but the promise the title hints at. First of all, the movie's 2 hours long. It's not 90 minutes long. There's no heaven. You see it in the movie in glimpses, but it's bullshit. And I suggest you marvel as Hayden Christensen struggles through a marble-mouthed Southern accent, generally acting like an alien visitor trying to appear human.
I want them pelts in my Bibles. Oh, wait, this is a religious film, right?
Yes, 90 Minutes in Heaven is based on a religious book that this guy, this Baptist preacher, was in a violent car accident, and he was technically pronounced dead at the scene, but in reality he was alive, and he was revived. And from a technical perspective, you could argue because he was pronounced dead at the scene, he was dead for 90 minutes. But, of course, how it's written in the book is, no, I was actually dead for 90 minutes, and then God sent me back.
Unlike God's Not Dead, that fucker stayed dead.
Well, the one thing I can say about 90 Minutes in Heaven is it is not a mean-spirited religious film. It's definitely more... It at least has that going for it, where ultimately it's supposed to be about, getting over trauma and living your life, which is fine.
Whereas God's Not Dead was just like, aren't atheists stupid?
Yeah, God's Not Dead will earn extra points in my shit list because it literally makes the dumbest argument against atheism you could possibly make, and yet people loved it for it. Yeah. This movie, on the other hand, is meant to be inspiring, and here's a couple quick problems with the movie. Problem number 1, Hayden Christensen cannot do a Southern accent. He tries so hard to do a Southern accent. It's embarrassingly bad. All right, part 2. The movie ends, and I actually walked out of the goddamn theater halfway through. The last scene in the movie, I didn't walk through halfway through the movie. The last scene of the movie is the person who's actually who Hayden Christensen actually plays giving a fucking sermon. I was sitting there, and I was like, 5 minutes in, I'm like, this is still going on. Is this going to keep going? Like, a couple minutes... No, they're hanging with this. He's giving a full fucking sermon here. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. And I walked out.
John Cusack made it work.
Because there was no purpose for it, because all it did was... They brought in the guy that the movie was actually about to give a sermon about what you just watched in the movie.
Yeah.
That
sounds like Criswell in Plan 9 from Outer Space.
If only it could be as amazing as the amazing Criswell.
You have come here because you are interested in the mysterious.
Another problem, and admittedly, Hayden Christensen, he had kind of a challenge for an actor, which was to carry a movie when his character is effectively bedridden for most of it, and he utterly fails to meet that challenge.
Yeah.
It's
big fucking surprise that was.
That's pretty much all I got to say about that. All right, Bill Arsenault, what was your number 5?
All right, my number 5 was Cameron Crowe's Aloha.
Which was also on my list, so tell me.
Oh, goodness. I'm trying to remember exactly, what I said about it. I remember when I saw the trailer, I got hooked on that song by the Cold War Kids that's in the trailer. And I kind of thought, okay, this could be an interesting romantic drama with some quirks. It's got Bill Murray in it. It's got... it looks like it's going to have some existential life questions or something. It's gonna have an interesting plot. and then you watch the movie, and it's like they never completed the script,
Right.
or the editing, or the filming. You
It's
know, it looks like what happened with that David O. Russell movie Nailed, which eventually became Accidental Love.
it's.
It looks like that's what happened to Aloha.
I think what baffles me about Aloha is how dull it is.
Well, I don't know if it's so much. It is a little dull, but it's. I would argue though that it does kind of keep your attention at how bafflingly bad it is. You know, like the performances are bad. I mean, granted, there's probably not much for the actors to work with because the script isn't doing what it's supposed to be doing, because the director isn't doing what he's supposed to be doing, because the editor isn't complementing anything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, no one knows really what they're supposed to be doing, so they're all just kind of there. The only one who's got kind of a clue is Bill Murray, but of course he's Bill Murray. He can nail anything. You know.
Yeah,
he essentially plays a Bond villain in this movie, which is really weird.
Which movie is this?
Aloha.
Right.
He doesn't become one until like
Until the last 2 minutes or whatever, but the last third of the movie, he essentially becomes a Bond villain. But
this movie has a major case of Forrest Whitaker from Vantage Point syndrome. To explain that, it is characters marvel at things that are completely uninteresting to you. Have you ever seen the movie Vantage Point, either of you?
No, I never really cared to. Someone explained to me the spoilers to it, like, oh, he's dead, oh, he's not dead, oh, he was kidnapped, oh, that wasn't really him, oh, it was someone else, oh, it turns out the security guard is actually this guy. And I'm like, what?
Right. Well, Forrest Whitaker's job in that movie is to hold a camera in his hand and do he has this dumbfounded face, like he smiles with the most ridiculous shit-eating grin through the entire fucking movie, and it is horrific.
I'm videotaping a president.
Well, every time someone talks about something kind of philosophical in Aloha, they get these. In particular, what am I?
Beat Coop?
Guffaws?
I'm brain farting.
Bradley Cooper?
Slack-jawed.
She played the Asian
Emma Stone.
Emma Stone. That's right. Sorry about that. Yeah, Emma Stone gets this look on her face that's just, like I said, it's Forrest Whitaker and Vantage Point. Just
the movie is so weird, though. It starts off with footage of army bases in Hawaii or something, and our relationship with Hawaii, and then it gets into some setup for a romantic triangle.
There's a lot of interesting ideas in there because the Hawaiian native population has a unique and kind of weirdly combative relationship with the white people on the island in a way that it would make for a fascinating movie. Honestly, I would love to see a documentary about it.
Right, that's part of the problem is Aloha has bad focus. Mm-hmm. It doesn't really know where to direct its story, where to direct the audience to, where it should be, where we should be watching.
There's about 4 or 5 possible stories that this movie could have made, and it didn't decide it wanted to do any of them.
Really, I would just suggest watching the trailer and leaving it at that. The trailer is really good, I think, but that's just me.
All right, Bill Leon, what is your number 5?
Terminator Genesis.
I didn't even see it, so I can't.
Genesis. Oh, I saw it.
Let me just tell you, you can go the rest of your life and never see it.
Fair enough.
Shit.
Anything to say about it, Bill A?
Red Letter Media handles it perfectly with their. It's not even a half in the bag episode. It's a Scientist Man side episode where they explain the time travel ins and outs of it and how ridiculously convoluted it is.
Mm-hmm.
And basically how there's no purpose for it to exist.
Right, it kind of cancels itself out.
Like everybody, I love the first 2 Terminator movies, and the fact that this has been in development theoretically since 2009 when Salvation came out, and this is what you came up with?
The problem I have with it is you've had so many ersatz reboots of the formula. I mean, Terminator 3 kind of rebooted the formula by saying, oh yeah, it's going to happen again, even though we stopped it. Then you have Salvation that said, oh, it happened already, and it happened in a different way than it happened in 3. But it did happen. And then you had the Sarah Connor Chronicles, which kind of paralleled some of the events, but it kind of created its own new continuity. And this does the same thing. It doesn't. There's no continuity between any of them.
It almost tries to. It paints itself as if it is a part of Terminator 1 and 2, but...
It does that by deleting them.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
At least the concept.
It pulls a Star Trek 2009, basically.
Right.
But Star Trek 2009 did it a lot better, actually.
Well,
I don't know if they should have done it, but they did it.
Well, the difference, I would say, is in the time travel world of Terminator, by doing what they do, they deleted history. In 2009, they basically said, oh, no, this is a parallel world. So you can have your wonderful Star Trek with all the complex storylines, but we want Star Trek that shoots people.
Well, I was just
mentioning morality tales. Boom.
It's basically the mirror universe Star Trek.
Bringing up how fucked up the timeline is and the lore in Terminator, it'd be great to get like a Deadpool character in that universe because Deadpool points out how screwed up the X-Men timeline is. Why can't we? In fact, just put Deadpool in a Terminator movie.
Captain Deadpool.
I'd love it.
All right, so moving on to my number 4, and I'm sure this is probably going to be higher up on a bunch of your lists. So if it is, then I will move on and we'll go to Bill.
It's Dirty Joe
Dirt 2.
Dirty Joe.
Let me check. Actually, Joe Dirt 2 is also my number 4.
Oh, and Bill Leon, where is it on your list?
It's my number 1.
All right, we'll get to it when you get to it. So we'll
okay, so we'll move on to his.
Yeah, what's your number 4, Bill Leon?
I'm surprised neither of you guys did this cheeky ass bullshit. It's Fantastic Four.
All right. Well, that was on my list, so I'm more than happy to talk about it a little bit.
It's kind of an interesting train wreck, but it's not charismatic enough to be so bad it's good, which makes it frustrating, because like there's elements there in a different film that this could be a very enjoyable fuck up.
Mm-hmm.
I think the production history is more intriguing than the content.
When I actually saw the movie, I was just so disconnected from it. I couldn't get into it. It felt that initial scene that when he's young, it kind of caught my interest, and then it trailed off from there. It was like watching the first 5 minutes of October Sky, and then
they lost me about 5 minutes into the movie. They lost me because first, I don't remember which happened first, but I saw Tim Heidecker, and then I saw Ben Grimm's brother hit him and say it's clobbering time, and I was like, they really just do that?
Yeah, they did. Because
it could have worked. That it's clobbering time thing could have worked if they had played up each individual character's like pain from their past and arcs and stuff like that, but they didn't have the time or the resources or yeah, exactly, or the direction or the sanity.
Right.
To do it.
I would argue saying it's clobbering time in a scene about domestic abuse, that kind of...
I know, it's a little cheesy, it's a little inappropriate, but they're kids. It's not like the dad is saying that.
I think I'm a minority of people.
But Tim Heidecker, I can't believe he was in that for two. He makes fun of it every chance he gets.
It's weird. It makes no sense that he's there, and he's just playing like an angry drunk dad. Like there's nothing.
Yeah, it's not like he's like a gas station attendant or something, you know.
And like
random character, you know.
Greg Turkington popped up on Ant-Man.
That was funny. He played.
That was funny. There was a point to that. Yeah.
He played a Baskin Robbins manager.
Yeah, and that was good stuff. Fantastic Four, I just think is ultimately a disappointment because it's not good enough to be great, or it's not good enough to be enjoyed, and it's not bad enough to be enjoyed.
Right.
It's somewhere in the middle, of mediocrity.
There are some amazingly bad moments in the movie, but they're so few and far between because what doesn't work is just so.
You know what's a fun game to play with it though is Spot the Wig.
Oh, yeah.
That's the thing. I mean, people set me up for that, and maybe I'm just a bad wig spotter. There was only one scene in the movie where I felt it was obvious.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know. I mean, I might just be bad at that because hell, I didn't know Sean Connery had a wig until a couple of years ago when someone pointed me out. Yeah, that's that. Do you see that? That's a wig. And
What about now, dog?
Yeah, now I can see it.
Mm-hmm.
But for years I just took it as read. Yeah, that's totally James Bond's hair.
Mm-hmm.
That strange little dog that's like lying on his, prone on his head. But with that said, then any other comments about that one?
So.
Nope. All right,
go listen to Hawk Ripjaw and I's Barfly episode.
That and our group review on it is really.
And our group review is pretty good too. Yeah.
My number 3 is Strange Magic.
Ooh, I didn't even bother with this.
Strange Magic is my number 1.
Oh!
We will talk about that later then. What is your number 3, Bill?
It's Pixels.
Oh, wait, me or?
Yes, yeah.
Bill Larson.
Oh, me and Earl and the Dying Girl.
Right, which is...
I've heard people defend this movie to their last breath. Leonard Maltin called it one of the most underrated films of the year.
Well, Leonard Maltin's wrong.
Let's just get to the... as far as Ralph Bakshi and Ridley Scott and Leonard Maltin, all these old guys, they're kind of out of touch. They don't know. They see it.
I like Leonard Maltin enough.
This is what the kids are into nowadays. I like
well, no,
this.
Leonard Maltin's
I highly respect Leonard Maltin's opinion.
Me too. Leonard,
I do too. I'm not... I like Leonard.
Not everyone's right all the time.
Leonard defends a lot of movies that are widely considered to be bad, but he's good at defending them, or at least giving his reasons for defending them.
Mm-hmm.
That's and I highly respect that. So give us your reasons why that movie is not good.
Me and Earl and the Dying Girl is so disingenuous and just so annoying and obnoxious. It's almost a parody of independent film. It's not a parody. It's a stereotype of independent film.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this is the film that showed at Sundance.
Well, let me just say I have been thirsting for a parody of these kind of movies for a long fucking time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it seems to go in waves like that, where you have the indie drama involving someone dying of a disease seems to be the thing right now. A few years ago, it was the indie drama about a quirky family, because you had Little Miss Sunshine, which was really big, and then you had movies like, what was it, Smart People?
I didn't see that, but you had 50-50 and Fault in Our Stars. Those were big ones.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't count those as independent films, though.
Really? Neither of them? Okay.
Maybe 50-50, but Fault in Our Stars was like a young adult novel, adaptation.
Let's call those mid-range releases.
Maybe, but if I remember correctly, Fault in Our Stars had a big release, and it was pushed.
It was like a #1 best-selling book, though.
No, but it got a big movie release. I remember there was even before the movie Q&A and director's cut extended edition in the theaters.
Mm-hmm.
It got a pretty big release. But Me and Earl and the Dying Girl, if you don't already know, is about a kid, his best friend Earl, and a dying girl that they befriend.
And they're really into movie parodies. Isn't that like a subplot?
They're into making their own little mini movies that are like parodying or aping on classics.
They're trying to sweet,
essentially, yeah. But that leads to nowhere. It's not like it leads to some big epiphany and they make a really awesome movie. They kind of do, but it's not really. It doesn't lead to really anything significant. The Dying Girl, they keep the main kid narrates the film the entire time, and he's like, oh, don't worry, everything ends up okay. And then when she dies, he's like, oh, I lied, sorry.
So this is like the Wonder Years meets home movies meets cancer.
Yeah, pretty much. Olivia Clarke does a good job as the Dying Girl. Mm-hmm. She's unfortunately placed.
Do you remember her character's name?
No.
Yeah, she's the Dying Girl.
but she's good in it. But she's unfortunately placed amongst this sappy, really trying hard to be independent and quirky movie. John Bernthal's in it. He's kind of wasted.
Doesn't he play like a teacher?
Yeah, he plays a teacher. He's actually kind of a cool teacher too.
Mm-hmm.
And so is Nick Offerman. He's in it too. He does okay, but
that's another thing. This movie kind of, in a way, the way it was advertised, it felt like a little of Fault in Our Stars, and then a little element of some of the coming of age movies like Kings of Summer and
Kings of Summer
Perks of Being a Wallflower and stuff like that.
I can't judge. I can't speak on Perks, but Kings of Summer is a great fucking movie.
I enjoyed both of those. I'm just saying, it seems to be borrowing elements from those.
It's definitely aping, and the director of this movie, I remember reading some interviews he gave where he's like, "Oh, I'm not surprised that some critics aren't understanding what I was reaching for in my film," and I was like, "Reaching for in your film, like a proctologist reaches up someone's ass?"
Wow.
Because that's exactly what you're doing with me, buddy.
That's how I felt about Max Landis trying to defend American Ultra.
I don't fucking like it because I didn't give you a copay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember signing off on that shit. So I don't know. It's just a bad movie.
I feel like Max Landis can probably defend American Ultra better than the director of Me and Earl and the Dying Girl.
All right, Bill Leon, what's your number 3?
Well, don't keep us in suspense. No, I know he's frozen.
Yes, Bill Leon is frozen. And
we'll give him a second. There he is.
Yeah, I got a new router, and it's really annoying.
All right, what is your number 3?
Yeah,
Pixels.
Oh, okay. Pixels. I already listed, so.
We did a good review of this. There's a podcast where me and Bill review Pixels. I feel like Jay Bauman in the Jack and Jill Half in the Bag, where you ask me what I think about Pixels, I go fuck, shit,
fuck,
and then someone farts.
Yeah,
someone farts in Pixels. I will say, does someone fart in Pixels? Is there a fart joke? It's not.
No,
it's not a heavy fart joke movie. There might be one that I'm forgetting, but
it's too bland for fart jokes.
That's
really.
True. Yeah, that might give it a little character.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems to me. I mean, since I didn't see the movie, I can only speak to what I think it felt like it was going to be, and what it felt like it was going to be was a movie about the video game generation by people who probably should have known how to represent it, but didn't.
It's not really that, though, either. It's like...
It's just supposed to be a fun movie where arcade games come to attack us.
Well, that's the thing, is like the framework to this could have worked with, people that gave a shit. Even keep Chris Columbus, because Chris Columbus is not the problem. The problem is the screenwriter and Adam Sandler.
Yeah.
As a lead, as a producer, as presumably an uncredited, contributor to the script, it's lazy, it's offensive at times.
It's really unfortunate because the short film this is based on, also called Pixels, is really nice. It's really a sweet little ode to, that era. And and when I read years ago that the guy who did the animation sold the rights to his short film to be adapted to Happy Madison, I was like,
money.
I was like, oh, fuck.
Money.
Yeah.
Anything? I mean, I know we talked this movie to death a few months ago.
Just a huge disappointment, but
okay.
But it wasn't a disappointment on the level of like high expectations.
No.
It was a disappointment in that in other person's hands it could have been pretty good.
Well, to also just like the weird thing about this is like it's again sort of like Fantastic Four, like it's somewhere in the middle of mediocrity because Jack and Jill is still by far the worst thing Adam Sandler has ever starred in. But this coming out now, after he's been through that, dealing with being told time and time again, this is unacceptable, and you just throw this shit out there, like you don't give a shit, and you're not interested in getting better. And my next pick actually reflects that as well, so we'll move on from there.
All right, so my number 2 this year, and number 2 is a great number for it, United Passions.
Ooh.
What?
United Passions.
Now, for those who don't know, United Passions is the movie that was about the history of FIFA. You know, the soccer, the International Soccer Association, and it was funded by FIFA.
You took to the Facebook chat about this shit.
Yes, United
I was
Passions.
like, what the fuck is this?
Oh yeah, this movie was infamous because it cost about $30 million to make.
That's
the FIFA funded it themselves. It stars Tim Roth, Sam Neill, Gerard Depardieu. So pretty decent actors. Also, like Fisher Stevens is in it too. So you've got a pretty good cast there.
That's ridiculous. I didn't even know all these people were in this thing.
Yes, and United Passions is specifically about Fédération Internationale de Football Association, or FIFA. And it's a movie about soccer, the history of soccer, and it entirely takes place within the confines of boardrooms in which rich white executives talk about how important soccer is. On a very rare occasion, the movie will cut to a symbolic soccer game being played by slum children from all different races, creeds, and backgrounds. That's supposed to be so beautiful. They're all playing this game together. It unites cultures. And
do you think there was a baseball documentary about like this made in the Great Depression where it showed like a similar thing?
Well, I mean, Ken Burns' Baseball is like a 12-episode series that's amazing, but that's besides the point. United Passions is. Here's what I wrote. This is what I wrote about it. I said, please do not give the International Soccer Association, FIFA, a cent to watch this movie. No matter how perversely, ironically funny it is, the last thing FIFA needs is another cent of your money. That said, please find a way to watch it. Rarely has a historical film departed so heartily from reality and been released in such a timely manner as to enhance that hilarity. Because I don't know if you know this, as an aside, this movie was released literally within a week of the big 2015 FIFA corruption scandal coming out, and suddenly all of these people who the movie is representing to being these uncorruptible geniuses of business, they're fucking criminals.
Right.
Most importantly, Sepp Blatter, played by Tim Roth. In the movie, he's depicted as the person who destroyed corruption within FIFA and made FIFA cleaned it up and made it the beautiful, just shining example of an international organization that it is. And Sepp Blatter is currently banned for life from the organization and probably facing a legal battle in the future because guess what? FIFA has a tendency to sell the World Cup to whatever country wants to pay them the most.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you know this, but they announced last year that the next World Cup is going to be held in the United Arab Emirates.
I remember that.
So the World Cup, which is a huge international soccer competition, being held in a country where, on your average day, the temperature is like 110 degrees.
I met one person in my life that likes soccer that I was cool with, and I don't know about the rest of them. I don't know about these soccer fans.
Well, here's the thing. I don't shoot soccer down because America's
I'll gladly shoot it down. Fuck.
America's pretty much the only country that hasn't really cottoned down to soccer too much, and with that said, though, United Passions fillets itself so hard every minute.
God.
Oh yeah, literally. Turn the movie on, and you watch as these actors just pull their cock out and just go, just gargle it. They're going for it so bad.
They're gagging on their own cocks.
Gerard Depardieu. What baffles me about it is
I don't want to think about Gerard Depardieu doing that to himself.
Gerard Depardieu plays the first chairman of FIFA in the movie, and so his scenes are mostly like in the early 1900s. And his character, what's fascinating about it is his character is a Frenchman. Gerard Depardieu is about as French as a Frenchman gets. Yeah. His accent sounds like some weird German or Italian character. He can't really decide on what he wants to sound like. When Zach and I were watching the film together, we decided we actually nicknamed him Bratwurst McPasta.
Right,
And
but isn't he himself French? Doesn't he know how
Yeah.
to speak French?
he should. In this movie, God knows where he got that accent.
That's weird.
Sam Neill plays a Brazilian, and he's just Sam Neill. He doesn't attempt to alter his accent at all. A lot of ancillary characters in the movie, by the way, have accents that are like Tommy Wiseau level, just indefinable European.
Oh, hi, Danny.
Exactly. And literally, like, every other line in the movie is a character talking about how important FIFA is to the world. There's this great scene where World War II is coming, and they are planning how they're going to survive the war. And
Soccer balls.
this, yeah. By the way, the British are like constantly throughout this movie the bad guy because FIFA, like the British, I guess, stayed out of FIFA for a while or something like that. And so only British characters in this movie are racist, even though, so it's, oh god, this movie is goddamn hot garbage, but at the same time, it's hilariously so.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And the extra irony of the legal scandal just makes it that much more sweet. Just the topping on that shit cake.
Uh-huh.
So, Bill Arsenault, what's your number 2?
The Human Centipede 3, final sequence.
Speaking
did
of
you
number
guys-
2.
Did you guys review this on Tuesday?
Oh no, we were supposed to, but
Yeah, well, I had, I got caught up doing other things.
I got caught up too. I think we'll handle it. We're gonna handle it Friday, but yeah, Human Centipede 3 final sequence. I was kind of excited to see this because I enjoyed the first movie, and the second movie I did a review for Movie Boozer that was like 3 beers. It was fairly positive. I appreciated number 2, Human Centipede 2, for what it was doing and everything, and I was kind of like, all right, well, how's Tom Six gonna push the story forward? He doesn't really. He just doesn't give a fuck. I'll grant him credit. He is bold. He made a movie that was so filthy and disgusting and despicable and just downright horrid that you gotta kind of commend him for that. He went out the way he wanted to go out. It's just the way he went out was so reprehensible. I mean, there's indiscriminate beating of women and rape of women. There's raping of men. There's eating of organs. There's sort of cannibalism. It's not. I don't know if I'd call it full-blown cannibalism, but I guess it kind of is.
Eating of organs is by its definition.
Whose organs? Well, whose organs? It could be like pig organs.
Okay,
or
they're human organs.
Oh.
They're African female clitorises that are shipped to this guy. There's even a joke in there about it. Like he tricks a girl into eating it, and he's like, "Yeah, help yourself. It's candy." And she's like, "It tastes funny." I'm like, okay, whatever. There's Eric Roberts is in it just to give disgusted looks, like, ew, what the hell? This movie is just downright ugly.
Right.
There's a bit in there where the warden, played by Dieter Laser. This is about a prison. The warden of this prison, played by Dieter Laser, is having a nightmare where the prisoners attack him. And one of the prisoners stabs him in the kidney and says, "I'm going to rape your kidney tissue." And,
What the fuck?
and goes on and rapes his kidney tissue.
What is? Oh, I was gonna say that's sort of similar to Quentin Tarantino's line in Planet Terror, but it's infinitely more disgusting.
Yeah, I know, right? Like I said, there's a bit in there with the guy who played Debo from the Friday movie.
What the fuck's his name?
Tony Lister?
Tiny Lister. Dave Lister.
Yeah, something like that. Who's generally, a good actor and all that stuff. Here
He's a fun character actor. Yeah.
He's usually a fun character actor who plays interesting roles. Here he just beats a woman almost to death for no reason other than I was let out of my cell and I'm a crazy black person. So he hits her in the face and just keeps hitting her while another prisoner's jacking off to it. And
Oh my
I just have to say this. Wait a second, Bill. You said Dave Lister.
and that's the protagonist from Red Dwarf.
Yeah, I was gonna say
right,
that.
yeah.
I knew I'd heard that from somewhere.
something like that,
I
yeah.
believe that's his name, but they call him Tiny probably because of that.
I always thought it was Tony, but maybe it is Tiny.
Tommy Lister.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, whatever.
Well, his nickname is Tiny.
There are
Yes.
There's one or two jokes in this movie that genuinely made me laugh, involving the prison doctor who is brought into this project of sewing the prisoner's mouth to anus, and that's the big thing, is that it's a giant human centipede, and the warden is like says something horrible about some atrocity he committed, and he's like, I raped him myself, or I did something myself. I forget exactly what it was, and he goes, yes, sir, you've told us 1,000,000 times. And I was like, okay, that's kind of funny. He's just getting sarcastic about how the warden is exclaiming about all these horrible things he's done, and the movie just keeps at it on such a clip that it's like you can't think it could possibly top itself, and yet it keeps topping itself, and it's such a trial to get through. I'm surprised I finished it. I think I finished it just because I started it. I was like, I want to see where this goes. I want to see how he's gonna do this. It is just straight up despicable filmmaking.
Gotta love that Tom Six.
It's completely irredeemable, I think.
What is it with the Netherlands, after all?
I don't know.
All right, I will admit Paul Verhoeven, so I'll give him credit. I mean,
give some credit where credit's due.
Yeah. So that's something. And Rutger Hauer and Paul Verhoeven working together. Now that is the Netherlands at their best.
That's the nether regions.
Yes.
So, Bill Leon, what is your number 2?
My number 2 is Ken's number 1.
Ah, okay.
Take it away.
Well,
so let's just get into that.
Yeah. Well, that would be the Ridiculous Six, which
Ouch.
Let me just say this. This is what I wrote. I wrote, there aren't enough descriptors to explain how bad this movie is, but I will list a few that apply. Boring, contemptuous, pathetic, depressing, loathsome, insulting, amateurish, adolescent, criminally unfunny.
Here's just a few. That sounds like more than a few, Ken.
So anyway, Bill Leon, what do you think?
It's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
You know what was kind of interesting about it is hearing Jay and Mike on Half in the Bag say they like the John Turturro baseball scene.
That baffles me.
I don't get it either. I didn't think it was entertaining.
To me, it's like let's take this already awful and boring story and let's put that on hold for a sketch that is just. You gotta wonder why they put that in the movie. I mean, someone thought it was funny. And
well, first of all, I speculate that there was probably a lot more horrid shit in this that got cut out, because the scene that caused the big controversy before the film was released, in which supposedly a bunch of white men are pouring whiskey onto a Native American woman for some fucking reason, that's not in the film.
right.
God knows what other kind of fucking horrible things got cut out of it. So maybe that was just there to fill time. I don't know.
Maybe this is like Anchorman, and there's like an entire other movie that they could edit from the deleted scenes of this.
Thinking about, in the most cynical way, thinking about like what this could have been originally, if that controversy hadn't got out, maybe it could be like on a Human Centipede 3 level of like disgust and offensiveness. I'll take that back. Maybe not that level, but.
And I really can't add to it. This movie, I've already talked about it to death, and I just want to put it to bed. This is, I actually feel kind of comfortable with myself now, because that will be the last Adam Sandler movie I will ever watch. I will never watch another movie that he appears in as a lead actor. I have vowed it off. Mm-hmm. It's done. I don't have to worry about it anymore. I'm going to be a happier person.
I'm free.
Yeah, I'm
Free falling.
That's right. I am. It's actually kind of a beautiful thing when you think about it. My life will not get any worse because of that.
Yeah, you're moving on to the next
There
chapter.
might be other things that'll make it worse, but that won't. I don't have to do that.
You can scratch that off.
Marlon Wayans has proclaimed he's going to keep making theatrical spoof films. So
Well, fuck him.
I swore him off after I saw Haunted House 2. I was like,
did you see that?
I saw Haunted House, and you made us watch a Haunted House 2, if you
I didn't
remember.
make anybody do shit. When did I make you watch a Haunted House 2? We watched Haunted House 1 together.
Yeah. Oh wait, you know what? Maybe it was one that I swore. It doesn't. Those movies blend the fuck together.
Haunted House 2 is much worse.
Okay, well the first one's still blue, so
It's still blue, yes, but yeah.
I have nothing more to say. What about you, Bill Arsenault? You have any thoughts on it?
About the Ridiculous Six, I didn't see it, but no, I didn't watch it. But I was in the room that was next to the room where my brother and my mom were both watching it, and I asked them afterwards. I was like, "Hey, what did you guys think of the Ridiculous Six?" And my brother was like, "Oh, it was funny when the donkey shat all over the thing." Just to put it in perspective, my brother is the same age as me. We're fraternal twins, but we're completely different people for the most part. So he likes his own movies. I like my movies. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, no.
My brother's older than me, but I still get that feeling sometimes when I hear they talk about a movie and it just makes me cringe. And I've gotten to the point where I've stopped arguing the point and I just let them believe that the movie they watched is wonderful.
Right.
Sure, whatever.
Because it got to a point where I would complain about everything they saw, and I realized, wait a second, they don't like being around me because of this. Anyway, with that said, Strange Magic.
Strange Magic, my number one worst movie of the year. This was one of the first movies I saw of 2015.
Yeah.
And I had to review it for Movie Boozer.
No.
And I actually watched it literally because I knew it would be a hard movie for it to go down for you, so I watched it in the spirit of friendship.
Yeah, I appreciated that, and I still do, very much. I probably should have put Human Centipede 3 as my number one, but I picked Strange Magic specifically because George Lucas was behind it, and considering the weight of George Lucas plus the obnoxious, in-your-face content, cartoony, trying to be sparkly clean, of the story and everything, just those two meshing together, was too much of a force to ignore.
It is the most lazy jukebox musical ever written, because usually in a jukebox musical, which, for those who don't know, jukebox musical is when all of the music within the film is music that came from other sources. It wasn't written specifically for the movie.
Yeah.
And in Strange Magic, all of the songs are famous love songs, and they're all so incredibly blatantly obvious choices for each scene. The movie begins with "Can't Help Falling in Love," and it's in just such terrible.
And the characters are so weird too. They're so you know how in Disney movies or the good characters are like wide and white, so it's like you can empathize with them, and then the bad guy characters are a little more tiny and squinty and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's this weird look to the eyes of Strange Magic characters where it's like it's lifeless.
Yeah, the Uncanny Valley.
The Uncanny Valley. There you go.
Incredible.
And when they're singing songs like "I Can't Help Falling in Love," and then they're going and ooh, and shit like that, it just makes your stomach churn because you're watching.
The covers, the music, the songs are just so poorly covered.
Yeah, Alan Cummings is in it, and usually he can pull off stuff like this, but
even Alan Cumming, at his most insane, could not save this movie.
He couldn't overcome this movie, unfortunately. And
Alan coming all over this movie couldn't help it.
Yeah, I gotcha. Okay. I would rather watch Alan coming over the DVD of this film.
Oh my God! Maybe that's the most disturbing special feature or Easter egg like in the world. Just like
it's just him with like an iPhone going like, oh yeah.
You don't even they don't even show anything. You just see him from shoulder above, and you just see the shoulders move really fast. And he's like,
spurt. Oh God. Take that, George Lucas. Yeah. I got pleasure.
Legitimately, I feel bad for CG artists that have to work on movies like this. I said this about the Croods, and I feel the same way about this. I guarantee you, like, no one animating this wanted to be animating this.
That's the weird thing about the CG in this movie. There are moments of CG in the movie that seem like really good, and then there's some horrible CG. It feels so unpolished. It feels like
It feels like those.
Believe me, I haven't watched this. I've only seen the trailer, but I get that shit. Like it's clearly apparent.
There's some really vivid textures in it.
Yeah. Well, what I was about to say real quickly was the animation reminds me of there was this Adult Swim pilot for a cartoon show about some twinkly Candyland fairy creature who's also like a pop singer or something. I forget exactly what the name of the show was, but it was a pilot. And were you listening to me, Bill?
I got cut off. I came in at pop star pilot.
Yeah, it was a pilot for a cartoon on Adult Swim about some female pop star / Candyland fairy who goes around and it's like everything is happy, but it's also kind of dark tones. Like she's going around with a girl who has an unwanted pregnancy.
Jesus.
And she's like flying around and everything. The animation looks like that, but in that context, it's fine because it's a small little 10-minute TV show.
Right.
This is a full-blown motion picture. It looked worse than that. It looked almost like a toy commercial.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they just whipped it up.
But it's so clearly to me, it feels like the animation was abandoned mid-render because there are so many elements in the movie that are really well rendered and very deep in texture, and then there are elements that look amateurish and as bad as you see in like the fucking Hoodwinked movies.
Ooh.
Wow.
So it feels like they just didn't have the budget to finish the movie, and so they said, we'll dump it into the
the kids will like it, but you know, it's stylistically designed to be that way, but we can diminish the effects of it.
Yeah, I won't appear in any of the promotion for this movie because
I can't imagine what a nightmare this movie is.
I founded Pixar over in that branch.
You brought up toy commercials.
Yeah.
We still.
Yeah. So with that said, yeah, Strange Magic.
Strange Magic is not a good movie. How about that?
No.
Yeah.
You brought up toy commercials, and
yeah.
Essentially, the Lego Movie. A lot of people call it a giant toy commercial, but it's also a really, really great movie.
It's a great movie. It was my favorite of that year.
The movie is called the Lego Movie. The title of the movie is product placement. So you kind of got to get over that if you're going to review it.
The fact that worked and they made that work, like a post-Lego Movie world, this shit is unacceptable.
I agree.
Yeah, that's the thing with a Lego Movie, they made it work because despite the fact that the movie is product placement essentially,
it really straight up depresses me. Just
the entire plot of the movie is beyond that. It doesn't care. It's not made to sell you these toys. It just happens to feature them.
There's a distinct lack of parental quality control going on. Probably all over the world, but I don't know all over the world. I know about here in this fucking country, and we got too much bullshit that they try to give to kids that's just nothing.
Yeah.
This seems like one of them.
So speaking of that, Billy, on your number one,
it's Joe Dirt 2, and there's a very I'm actually kind of, I don't want to say disappointed in the two of you, because most of the films that are above Joe Dirt 2 on your list I haven't seen, but Joe Dirt 2 is so relentlessly forgettable. I think that's like the ultimate crime here.
Strange Magic is incredibly forgettable.
Right.
Yes.
So I don't know. I can't.
I think it's a matter of I think it's a matter of preference and a level of tolerance. You know, for
I do have this weird sixth sense of satisfaction that my top 3 are all Happy Madison productions.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay. Here's my opinion of Joe Dirt 2, because it definitely made my list. It's just the reason it wasn't higher up on the list is just because, honestly,
you don't remember it.
I have trouble caring enough to hate the movie.
Oh, I remember it perfectly.
I mean, I hated the movie, but I don't like it didn't inspire rage within me. And even United Passions, as much fun as I had laughing at how bad that movie is, the knowledge of the horrible human beings that created the movie really raged within me, and so that boosted its ratings. So with that said,
rage against the dying of the light.
Yes,
thank you. Do not go gentle.
Joe Dirt 2 is a Crackle release. Nobody gives a shit about Crackle. Nobody,
their fucking Roku app doesn't even work that well.
This is a free movie. You didn't even need a subscription to anything to watch it. So maybe in that sense, you guys are going easy on it. I don't think you should go easy on this fucking thing.
It's poorly shot, poorly edited, poorly produced. I mean, like, the production design is like so. It's like whatever they had at the place where they were shooting it, that's what they used. They didn't bother with props.
It's clear that they didn't update the script from 2005.
That's what, like, the constant references to things that are like 9 years old.
Yeah.
Plus, on top of that, the guy from the band Sugar Ray gets jacked off by a family member.
That is a logical, not the joke, but
wait, what?
Casting Sugar Ray was logical because they needed to replace Kid Rock.
But why Sugar Ray? He's not even... At the time when Kid Rock was cast in that movie, he was actually at the top of his...
I barely remember who Sugar Ray was.
That was like the American Badass era.
Just so barely remember who Sugar Ray was.
American Badass! Watch me kick. You can boot rocker. You can radio edit.
Well, that was the American Badass era, which... that
was his downward slope.
Yeah, the hype for him was that Ball with the Ball period. The what the fuck is that album called? I don't even remember.
I don't know, but I remember it was a Cowboy and I Am the Bull God.
Bull God. They're terrible, but I kind of like them.
Dude, these were the songs we grew up on, man. Isn't that like a horrible, horrible era to grow up in?
That and
for music.
Limp Bizkit and Papa Roach and
Limp Bizkit. Oh god!
I am so glad that the whole new metal thing, like, it glazed over me. I just did not.
It died after just 2 years.
I had a lot of friends that were into it around that time. So
I just remember my brother playing songs like Nookie, and
Nookie, yeah.
Nookie.
Yeah, did it all for the Nookie.
Did it all for the Nookie VHS.
And my brother was so hardcore into stuff like that, and I was just like watching it from this weird result, like, because I was always that geeky kid who I preferred my dad's old records to anything new that was coming out, so I was kind of an old, like, hipster in my teens.
Right.
And, so my brother would play these songs, and I would just be like, you realize this is garbage, don't you? And he would be like, this song's amazing.
Yeah, well, I always had a problem with the lyrics. Because the lyrics never made any sense to me. It was basically just rambling stuff.
Right.
Like Fred Durst would go on, like, I'm the man on the mic. Yo, girls, you want to have sex tonight?
Oh, my God.
And I was like, wait, what? What did he just say?
All right. I'm looking up lyrics to Nookie. I'm going to read these.
Nookie isn't the worst song they've ever done. But
I came into this world as a reject. Look into these eyes. Then you'll see the size of these flames dwelling on the past. It's burning on my brain. Everyone that burns has to learn from the pain.
When are we gonna
Hey,
do our?
I think about the day my girlie ran away with my pay when fellas come to play. No, she's stuck with my
Homie.
homies
And she's
that she fucked.
the
And
three
And
of
I'm a
us.
sucker with a
with a
lump in my throat.
Hey, like a chump. Hey, like a chump. Hey, like a
Now
chump.
this is a preview of something that we need to do, which is the three of us and Zach going over chocolate starfish and the hot dog flavored water track by track.
Oh, God.
And then eventually ending with Gold Cobra. Which, at least I'll admit with Gold Cobra, from what I listened to, it sounds like they're back to parody. Like, they started with parody, and then they got too serious.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're back to, like, actually legitimately making fun of themselves. So maybe there's some good there. I don't know. I haven't listened to the whole album. I don't really want to.
So,
Anyway, Joe Dirt 2 sucked.
Yeah, it's terrible.
All right, so now to get into our top fives. Top fives. But
Well,
first,
actually, do we want to do the 10 through 6?
yeah, I'll start with mine. My
Okay.
number 10 was 99 Homes. Number 9 was Turbo Kid. Number 8 was Call Me Lucky. Number 7 was Inside Out. And number 6 was Slow West.
Okay.
What was yours?
All right, number 10, Turbo Kid. Number 9, Western. Number 8, Guy Madden's The Forbidden Room. Number 7, Welcome to Me. And number 6, Mad Max Fury Road.
Oh! Oh, wait. No, I thought this was the worst of list. Never mind. Of course that wouldn't be on your worst of list.
Yeah, oh, of course not. Yeah, of course Bill would put it somewhere on his top 10.
I didn't imply that. I just implied you wouldn't put it on your worst of.
Oh, okay, well, there you go. So, Leon, what's your 10 through 6?
Once again, number 11, Cobbler, Boy Next Door, Cool Cat Saves the Kids. I
Top.
just... Yeah,
This
I
is
know.
top.
No.
Okay.
But that's, again, 11 is on both lists because it's the best of the worst.
Oh, I get it.
Number 10 used to be The Revenant, but that just got knocked off. So number 10, When Marnie Was There. Number 9, Star Wars The Force Awakens. Number 8, The Hateful Eight. Number 7, Kingsman: The Secret Service. And number 6, the SpongeBob movie, Sponge Out of Water, which only the 2D parts, which is the majority of the film.
All right.
I really wanted to put, what was number 7 for you?
Kingsman.
Kingsman? I really wanted to put Kingsman on my list, but...
I really enjoyed the hell out of Kingsman. It's actually one of all the films in my bottom 5, I've rewatched it the most.
You know, I enjoyed Kingsman quite a bit. Not a list film for me, but I really do give that movie a lot of credit. That movie had a ton of James Bond-like spirit.
It was a better Bond movie than Spectre, from what I hear.
Yeah, I hate to say that because it definitely isn't a Bond movie, but it does capture way more of that Bond spirit than even Spectre did, and so I gotta credit that. So my number 5, Bone Tomahawk.
Oh, okay.
Not higher up for me. So it's...
Where's it on yours?
I didn't
Not
even
higher
listen.
up.
Yeah, it's not higher up. For
Okay.
me.
Well, Bone Tomahawk. This is what I wrote about it. Any movie that opens with Sid Haig and David Arquette having an argument about the proper way to slice a sleeping man's throat is a winner in my book.
David Arquette. That guy will never cease to amaze me. He's awesome.
And Sid Haig is in that opening scene.
And Sid Haig, of course. Sid Haig's cool. Yeah.
The movie has dialogue that makes Quentin Tarantino's recent effort just look kind of amateurish by comparison. I mean, as much as Hateful Eight was fun, the dialogue in Bone Tomahawk is something other than... I mean, it's a whole new ball game. It really is. And the movie blends horror and Western elements with equal measure in a way that's just truly feels like an equal exercise in both genres. And it has great performances. Richard Jenkins is particularly awesome as Chicory, an old kind of dim-witted widower who takes his job as the backup deputy of this podunk town way more seriously than he should. And it's just everything about this movie I fucking enjoy. Some people argue the movie is a little slow. I don't think so. I think the tension that it builds up to is worth every minute of it. Kurt Russell, his performance in it is superior to anything he did in Hateful Eight. As much as I loved Hateful Eight, it didn't quite make my top 10 this year. And I think this movie is the superior Kurt Russell Western this year. And you can't even technically call it a full-on Western because it does have a very distinct horror element to it that is so accomplished in its own right. And it features what might be one of the most gruesome scenes in recent memory in a horror movie.
Okay.
So, all right, that's it. What's your number 5, Bill?
So, all right.
Unless you have any questions.
Oh no. I think you concisely nailed down Bone Tomahawk.
Okay.
I think it's on my Amazon Prime right now, so I'm gonna.
Oh yeah, it's free on Amazon Prime right now, so you have
I'm
no
gonna be checking out
excuse.
very soon. Same with Ex Machina, which I unfortunately missed.
Did you watch Whiplash yet?
I feel so bad. No, I haven't seen Whiplash. Oh God, I promise it will get seen, but
Do it before it gets taken off Netflix.
All right,
All right,
what's your number 5?
my number 5, Gaspar Knows Love. Which
I
I
so
know.
wish Zach was here. This would be interesting.
Oh God, Zach detests this movie, and
And when he gets something in his head to detest, he goes.
At least, well, Zach did, as far as like me not liking Inherent Vice, Zach didn't go on Twitter and make a dickhead of himself like the other day.
Dude, that was crazy. What's funny about that, by the way, as a side, Bill Leon, after you did your thing with Movie Boozer account on Twitter during the live tweet, the rest of film Twitter the next day, the rest of the film critic community hated on that live tweet. They were like, "Oh, anyone who took part in that were like Philistines and weren't worthy of whatever."
I don't agree with that at all. I don't like the movie, but I wouldn't go that far.
I actually started. I didn't get into any arguments so much as I got into conversations with the guy who runs Birth Movies Death, Devin Ferrasi.
Oh, yeah.
He's kind of a dick, but he tweeted at me, no, I respect films. I don't tweet during them. And I was like, I'm not talking about in the theater, jackass. I'm talking about in at home. And he's like, well, even then, you're not paying attention to the movie. You got to pay attention to the movie. You got to sacrifice a goat to it.
Oh man, that's bad.
I was like, he didn't say that, but that's how far he was going.
Yeah.
And I was just like, okay, dude, whatever, But if you had stuck around for that, that would have been funny.
I first off, I was really drunk, like probably too drunk to be, because like I was trying to make points and I was just getting frustrated.
The points you were making were like, fuck this movie.
Well, have either of you read Zach's actual review for the movie?
Inherent Vice?
I thought I reviewed it.
For Love.
Oh, for Love?
Oh,
no,
we were talking about Inherent Vice. Just
Right. But I was
haven't
trying to pull you guys back in.
Well, what did he have to say about it, and then I'll counter.
All right, I'll give a couple of his beers just for fun. The
Okay.
positive that he gives to the movie is that Gaspar knows how to shoot drugs and clubs. And if he says if explicit sex is your bag, he's got you covered.
I'll agree with that, but that's almost like lowering Gaspar Noé. That's like saying he's an exploitation pornographer.
Well, that's kind of what Zach's point is, because he writes here, he makes sure to write himself an on-camera blowjob scene like Vincent Gallo.
Okay, Gaspar does not play himself in this, nor does he show his dick. Now, there is a surrogate character for Gaspar. That's the lead male character of the film. But at the same time, I don't think... Maybe it's a little autobiographical. I don't know. But I don't think necessarily it's...
Zach writes, the script's so clearly a product of No's personal relationship experience. It's hard not to shed a tear for all the women trapped in his orbit over the years.
I don't see that at all. I mean, yeah, you should feel bad for these relationships that he's had, and there should be an equal level of regret going on. But even at the end of the movie, spoiler alert, the main character, who is essentially Gaspar's surrogate, does feel bad about all the pain he's caused, or he's helped, further along in his life. So there is some level of, like I said, regret and looking back and That's part of what I liked about this movie. Its structure of time and how fractured it is, and how your interpretation through memory kind of changes over
Okay.
time. So I kind of really appreciated that. What else does Zach say?
Uh, I went through it. Those were kind of the more beautiful points. I just wanted to give
Okay,
bring a little bit of Zach to the table.
that's fine. I did
I
not get
haven't
to
seen
see
it,
this.
so I just want to say I'm not. Don't hold me responsible for what I was reading. I was just laughing at the contrast between
That's
the
fine.
opinions here.
I didn't see this movie in 3D, which it was billed as. It did play in my area, but it did not show in 3D.
Right.
I got a I'm trying to remember if I saw a screener of it, or yeah, it was a screener. Yeah, it was a screener. I forget how I got it though. I think it was through one of the local theater programmers, or maybe it was a press person. I don't know. It was through legitimate means. I remember that it was an email. But I saw the movie, oh no, I remember how I saw it. It wasn't a screener. I bought it on Vimeo.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, I purchased it, and then it came on Netflix like 2 weeks later.
Yeah, that's happened to me a couple times. I've gotten fucked that way.
I hate that, but I like supporting movies. So
How much
whatever.
did you pay on Vimeo?
It was only like $9, $10, something like that. It wasn't really that much.
I paid like $4 or $5 for Last Days of Coney Island, and
All right,
Well,
so
I know
Bill,
you
Leon,
hate it,
what is
yeah.
your number 5?
oh, it's just today, just a fresh number 5, 99 Homes,
Awesome.
which is
Oh, man.
mainly
99 Homies don't play that.
mainly based on the strength of the two lead performances by Andrew Garfield and Michael Shannon.
Right.
They are a true odd couple because you really don't see these two performances like gelling the way that they do, but they do end up working very well together, and they do have this undeniable chemistry.
The movie really does. It wraps you up in this sort of plot of a guy who's literally selling his soul to the devil, and he doesn't know it. And it's this really dark element because Michael Shannon's character is not all evil at first, and then you just sort of it embroils you within his life, and you see while the more empathetic elements you get from him, the more you start to realize, wait a second, the fact that he's got these things going for him and he still chooses to do what he does makes him a worse person actually than if he just shrugged it off. And the way it depicts the housing crisis, I mean, I would say it really beats The Big Short in terms of the way
Yeah. It's so much
depicts
better
it.
than The Big Short. If The Big Short takes the Oscar this year, I might legitimately rip hair out of my head.
Well, you see, The Big Short, I enjoyed it, but The Big Short tries to take the housing crisis on in this big, huge, sprawling way, and that's fine. But
Bill A. just gave a look. Why'd you give the look?
is it going to be on your list higher?
No, it's not. It's
Okay.
not. It's not on my list. But I really did like The Big Short. It surprised me.
Same here.
Considering I knew nothing about it really going in. Someone wrote recently the main character of The Big Short is actually the audience. Because every once in a while in the movie, the audience is like given front row access. Like Margot Robbie talks to them.
That movie
happen
breaks the
enough.
fourth wall a few times.
That doesn't happen enough for it to be like a motif of the film. It happens, 3 times in a fucking 2-hour movie?
Yeah, but the movie's kind of like in a way, like a lecture in some cases, you know.
It was those moments, though, that kind of threw me out of the movie. Now we're going to have a naked woman talking to you about something to explain.
This movie was 99 Homes.
I thought that was funny.
The Big Short is 99 Homes and Wolf of Wall Street by way of Ferris Bueller.
Okay, that kind of makes sense.
Well, what 99 Homes does, and does well for me, is it personalizes it. The movie opens with what I would argue might be the most emotionally powerful scene in any movie last year. It's just this sequence where you see a family being put out of their home, and you see all of the shock and just betrayal that comes from that. And it reminds me a lot of, if you've seen Roger and Me, the Michael Moore documentary, his very first film, where you see the sheriff putting a family out of his home out of their home in there, I got that same sinking feeling of these are human beings who had a life, and they, that life is now done. They have to come up with a whole new way to survive at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it really is. I felt so horrible watching that. I felt like I was trying to peek in on someone, and while they
what
were
really
naked.
what really helps that feeling in the film is that the lack of like known character actors or just regular actors in the roles of people he's evicting. Like all those are just like unknown faces, just regular people, not attractive people, not actors, not people on a fucking call sheet, like just real people that he's confronting and evicting from their homes, and they're giving real genuine reactions to that.
Right. And it's Michael Shannon is really, he is such a powerful performer because he plays his character in just the best of ways, because you get these moments in the movie where you feel like he's showing humanity.
And
you
know what? Not to cut you off. The ending of this movie could lead into like a Die Hard revenge thriller.
Maybe. A little bit. Thanks, Bill. So, all right. Well, now that Bill Leon has frozen up, I will go ahead and give my number 4.
Okay.
Sound good?
Yes, that does.
All right. I thought you froze for a second, too. Mad Max Fury Road.
Okay.
Is that higher up on your list or anywhere?
No, I already listed as number 6.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Well, Bill Leon disappeared, so he'll be back.
He'll be back,
presumably.
yes.
Well, Mad Max Fury Road. The reason why this movie made my list is because, first of all, as a fan of the Mad Max franchise, I can only say how fantastic it was all these years later to have a sequel to the franchise that really felt like it fit within that universe and kind of one-upped it in some ways. The special effects were just amazing. I am not someone who gets wowed by special effects easily. This movie really won me over with it. The stunt work is just fantastic. The practical driving sequences are amazing. The editing is just so dynamic. This was a feat of a movie to produce, and the story is so simple, so concise, and yet it all comes together in a perfect little action movie. It really that's what it is. It doesn't aspire to be anything more than just a very solid action movie, and it does that. It accomplishes that on every level.
As a detractor, can I just say I agree with that statement completely? I don't, and that's the thing. Those aren't my issues with the movie. In fact, really, the main reason I've been so down on Fury Road is just because of how much the supporters and the fans put it up on this pedestal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I can certainly understand that.
That was a perfect moment to freeze on.
It is. I can see why some people might have gotten frustrated, because it certainly is a movie that a lot of people jumped in and said, oh, this is the greatest movie ever made and such. That's always I don't go on to those. I don't get onto the praise wagon like that. I try not to call a movie the greatest thing ever made, because there's always a point in which that disappears. What I can say, and this is the final thing I have to say about the movie, I saw Fury Road 3 times in the theater, and each time I saw it, it got better. It didn't get worse, it got better.
Now, I do that a lot, but I do it with acknowledged hyperbole. And at no point do I ever actually think when I say, like, this is the greatest, or, whatever. Like, I don't mean that shit. That's just sort of a boasting hyperbole thing.
Right, certainly. And here's the thing. I'm even going to confess, and I think that The Road Warrior is still a better movie. And even, honestly, the original Mad Max, some people don't like it. I love it. I might even say I would watch that faster than I would rewatch Fury Road. But I loved Fury Road. So, all right, what was your number 4?
My number 4 was Tangerine.
Ooh.
I want to see this. I haven't watched it, and I need to.
Okay, what about you, Ken? Is this higher or lower?
It's not higher, but I'd love to talk about Tangerine.
Okay, Tangerine. This is a movie that was shot completely on an iPhone. It is
A heavily
about
modified iPhone, to be fair.
okay, a modified iPhone, but still, it was shot on an iPhone. Very cleverly, very expertly.
Right.
It is about the story of two trans sex workers who, one of whom just got out of jail, and it's a she. For all intents and purposes,
Right.
She's trans, but she's a she. She's living as a she.
That is how she chooses to present herself.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. She has learned that her pimp/boyfriend may have cheated on her, and so she goes on a journey of trying to find this bitch, and that's how she refers to this bitch, and she goes on trying to. This is all taking place during Christmas, by the way.
Yes. Christmas Eve.
In West Hollywood.
Or no, it's actually Christmas Day. I'm sorry, it's Christmas Day.
Yeah, so she's on this trip, like this investigation of finding this bitch, and the side story of this movie is a foreigner taxi, like an immigrant
Armenian taxi driver.
Yes, Armenian taxi driver who likes to pick up trans sex workers, and he knows that community, and he likes to have sex with them and everything.
But he's married and has a family.
But he's married and has a family, that's kind of an interesting side point, but the one I preferred was the main storyline.
It's one of the most simplistic plots in movies of the year. It's just simply, I gotta get that bitch.
Yeah, that bitch.
That's the plot of the movie, and yet it's such a hilarious movie that really, it's just about these two pretty demented individuals who are also they're so beautifully told. I compare the movie to like a John Waters movie. The director heavily empathizes for them, even though they're kind of filthy individuals.
Well, they're very human characters. They're flawed, of course, but they, they're very much individuals. They're very much themselves, and they don't give a shit if you like it or not.
Exactly. And I want to say it's not the trans aspect of them that makes them filthy. It's their dirty fucking mouth and their willingness to beat the shit out of people when they get mad and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah, they're clearly from the streets. They're not, the most civilized.
It's a seedy subculture underworld that they're a part of, not the trans community. I mean, like
right. Yeah. No. I think you've made
they're prostitutes. That's
being prostitutes in West Hollywood and all that stuff. It goes along with it. They like to hang out at a donut shop, which I'd like to visit now after seeing the movie.
Yeah, I kind of want to go to that donut shop because
just to say, hey, I want that.
Stan Nikita's Donuts.
No, isn't it called like Donut World or something like that?
Something like, or the Donut Hole, I don't know, something like that. But what I liked about this was it was a very human mosaic kind of movie. It reminded me a lot of. There's a special feature on David Lynch's Inland Empire DVD called More Things That Happened, which is basically just a compilation of deleted scenes.
Yeah.
But he calls it More Things That Happened as if to say they're technically a part of the continuity.
Yeah,
if there is a continuity. It's like parallel. And there's one bit in there where we follow along prostitutes in Hollywood, and it's just the camera floating amongst them as they're observing, as they're just consorting with one another, and it's really beautiful. And Tangerine reminded me of that, but like you said, with a John Waters kind of edge to it.
Mm-hmm. An example of the kind of demented sense of humor this movie has. There's this lengthy sequence in which the taxi driver picks up a prostitute from the street and there's this lengthy sequence where he's driving her to try to find a place where they can get down, and he tells her to, to pull her dress up, and he bends over because what the taxi driver wants to do, he likes to pick up trans prostitutes and blow them.
Is he played by Eddie
Give them
Murphy?
No,
Yeah.
he's not played by Eddie Murphy.
Yeah,
You got that joke though? That's good.
Yeah, I got that joke. Totally, yeah. He goes to give her oral sex, and it turns out she's actually a woman.
Right.
Like that's her anatomy. She's
And so he
Right,
gets
right,
pissed
right.
off, and he kicks her out of the taxi cab, and it's just like, get out of here. And he takes the money back, and it's just like it's such a ridiculous like.
You get out of my cab.
Yeah.
You get out.
Is that how he says it? That's how he talks?
No,
Something like that. Not quite. I don't really remember. But
I think he speaks. I think he speaks Armenian mostly.
it's Armenian. Yeah, I can't do that accent. So.
But yeah, but either way, it is the movie is so demented and so
It's
ridiculous.
a wonderfully demented comedy, but also
There's a heart to it, though.
A beautiful heart. Yes, exactly.
It's been on my to-do list. I believe
it's on Netflix right now. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I've been meaning to watch it. I'm sorry that I haven't, honestly.
That's okay.
So what's your number 4?
Dope.
Perfect timing.
Yep. That was fucking lame.
You've been planning this for like a while, haven't you?
Like 2 minutes.
Yeah. Dope almost made my top 10 also. That was a really good movie.
I think it should have. Bill, have you seen Dope?
No, but I know it's nominated for Russell Simmons' new award show that's going to be happening right at the same time as the Oscars on Fusion. It's called the Black Movie the All Deaf Movie Awards. That's what it's called.
Okay.
That's cool. Whatever. I don't know about that, but Dope to me is like the perfect successor to Dear White People.
Yeah,
Okay.
in a lot of ways it is. It's more of. It feels to me kind of like, even though it's not a heist per se movie, it's kind of like a heist film in that there's a lot of It's about these people who decide. This group of kids decide to sell drugs in order to afford.
Well, through a series of mishaps.
Yes,
they acquire drugs against their will, basically.
Mm-hmm. But then they finally come down to it, and they're like, they're going to sell it. Mm-hmm. And it's about these geeky kind of kids who are obsessed with 90s hip-hop culture, but they're living in a modern, they're living in modern America. And
right,
so,
and well, that is a thing that is going on right now with modern teenagers in America.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's what really struck me with this, is just how well it represented the youth culture. And the fact that the director's like an old man, isn't he? Or like an older, I know the dude's like at least in his 50s, right?
Let's see, I'm looking up. Rick Famuyiwa, I think his name is let's see. Actually, I don't even see when he's been directing for a while.
Yeah.
He did Brown Sugar.
He's not a young man. This is not his first film. This is not a 20-year-old person. But somehow this film perfectly captures the youth of right now. Not the mainstream idiot fucking presumably gun-wielding youth that the media likes to sensationalize.
In a way, it's kind of it's very niche in that it's kind of about black hipsters, which is
that's a good way to put it.
And that's not meant to be an insult, because
No.
there's something to be said about it. It's a subculture that you don't think about because it's not represented on the national palette as often. But it's about these kids who they're really into these things, to vinyl for one thing.
Yeah.
They're really into obscure old hip hop. They're into a lot of old trends. There's they got the flat top hairdo, stuff like that. And I think there's a great deal of fun in it as these characters just kind of experience sort of.
Even characters that are supposed to be stereotypes aren't played as stereotypes and aren't written as stereotypes.
Right, and not only that, but they're intelligent kids, because they discover that they can sell drugs through Bitcoin transactions to make money, and it makes it virtually untraceable. And so they basically, they use their nerdity to become drug dealers and very efficient ones.
Yeah.
And that's really fun. And they're doing it to get into college. That's what's hilarious. I loved Dope, and it almost made my top 10. So
It's a great one. I think it is also on Netflix right now. So
It is.
yeah.
All right, Ken, number 3.
The Look of Silence.
Oh,
Ooh,
right.
this for me is my number 2.
Now
Oh.
this and The Act of Killing I think might be too intense for me. I don't know if I want to watch them.
We'll get into The Look of Silence next, then, since it's on your number 2. What's your number 3, Billy?
Inside Out.
Which is my number 2.
Okay, so how do we handle that?
Well, we go to my number 3 and then
Okay, what's your number 3 then?
Turbo Kid. This isn't higher, is it?
No,
No.
we already listed it.
I guess we've already revealed that. Turbo Kid. First off, I love the '80s. I was 2 years old by the time
Do
the
you
80s
love
was over.
Do you love
so
the 80s?
Hey,
I love
you
that
remember
show.
the
If
80s
you-
with Goat Boy?
if you're referencing that TV channel, I do love the '80s, but
Yeah. Well, no, I was referencing the Saturday Night Live skit with Jim Brewer.
Turbo
Goat Boy.
Kid.
All right,
Turbo
let's get
Kid,
moving.
it's like a nostalgic '80s Mad Max kind of spoofish movie that's very gory, told by way of like Wes Anderson style comedy drama.
In a way, but it's weird in that it kind of also pays respect to kind of those like kiddish movies from the 80s that were technically.
My niece caught a glimpse of this and wants to watch it, and because of the gore factor, I'm like, no, you can't watch this.
That's the thing. There were a bunch of movies in the 80s that were ostensibly made for children, but they were also PG-13 or R, or if they were PG,
They were made
they were
before the
kind of
PG-13 rating, yeah.
yeah, like Gremlins, which nowadays would probably be PG-13. Maybe
Yeah.
even R, depending, because there's a couple brutal
Is
moments
Jaws
in that
is Jaws PG or R?
Jaws is PG.
Jaws is PG. What the fuck?
That was the 70s PG.
They haven't amended it since then, though.
MASH was PG, and there's a ton of tits in that movie.
Oh,
There are so many
I
tits in
was
that
listening.
movie.
This was on Harmontown. They were talking about how they use the N-word a lot in Bad News Bears, and that's PG.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, with that said, Turbo Kid was an enjoyable movie. I that made my top 10 for a reason, and it's high on your list. So read us your
I didn't write anything, but it's just the heart of it, really. I think that was what's most surprising, and I was one of the people that saw Kung Fury first, so kind of skeptical going in,
Mhm.
but really like the dedication to the script and the decision to not be, and I'm not trying to hate on Kung Fury because I don't hate Kung Fury, like that's what it was. That movie's fine. Like I think a lot of people
Right.
are coming down hard on it, probably because Turbo Kid was so good. But it all has to do with having a heart and really having rounded characters, not just stereotypes or cartoon characters. Like there was a lot of depth to the characters. Like I won't get into spoilers, but the reveal of Apple's character, like that hit me. I was like, what? Like I was invested in the story at that point.
By the way, a little piece of Turbo Kid and her character being named Apple that I'm sure like a lot of people don't even think about is
Apple computers.
yeah, and it's just a simple thing. And one of my favorite little throwaway jokes is she says, "My name's Apple," and he's like, "I'm sure it is." It's just yeah, which.
That's funny.
Even
mainly because
without the iPod like thought of her being a computer, it's more of just Apple sounds like a name that the definition of the manic pixie dream girl stereotype would have.
That's very true, and actually, I think her character kind of plays on that a little bit.
Well,
Maybe not.
That's exactly the point of her character. Is her character was designed to be the manic pixie dream girl, and so
From the 80s mindset. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, damn. Which, yeah, I guess they didn't do that much back then, but
Well, no, that's still. I
There were
mean,
some '80s movies with some perky,
there's
dream girl-ish characters. Yeah.
there's always those weird. I mean, Monster Squad has a girl character who's kind of like the goofy female part.
What
Not
about the lead girl from Goonies? I don't know if she's
I
manic.
haven't seen Goonies. I was going to bring up
God.
Ali Sheedy from Breakfast Club.
I don't know if she's manic pixie dream girl, but
Yeah.
she's
There's
like
maybe you know what, in the '80s it was more morose dream girl because
Okay.
the women always kind of had a depressing side to them.
or they were full-grown adult women, like Weird Science or Mannequin.
Steelers Day Off, where
Mannequin.
they were all like
Mannequin,
pretty
yeah.
30-somethings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Weird Science. What the fuck? Anyway, yeah, but Turbo Kid is aware of all these '80s movies, loves them, paying tribute, and I gotta say this. I did like this a lot more than I liked Fury Road, but just like subbing out cars for bicycles is just hilarious.
I will agree. In a way, it was a perfect timing for that movie to come out
So
this
goddamn
year
funny.
because it took on that concept, and
Oh,
it actually makes more sense because in reality, gasoline deteriorates in quality over time, and so
Every time the villains were on bicycles, I was cracking up.
yeah. So with that said, my number 2 movie was Room.
This is on my to-do list. I might even watch it tonight.
Has anyone here seen Room?
I haven't seen it.
I'm going to go ahead and just read what I wrote on it, and I said,
There's spoilers in this?
well, no.
Okay, good.
This year features yet another solid child actor performance, the actor Jacob Tremblay. Room is similar to Beasts of No Nation, which will be higher on my list. There's a spoiler. Thematically, despite the much smaller scale tragedy engulfing its principal characters, where Room excels is in the way it deals with the aftermath of the trauma, and with that, Brie Larson is so well deserving of her Oscar nomination, and really my pick for the strongest performance of the year in any dramatic feature. What's fascinating about Room is that the movie, at first, you're watching it through the eyes of the kid, but over the course of the film, you start watching it through the eyes of the mother, and it becomes more of her movie because you see that children, as much as a child experiences trauma in a very, trauma is something that can fuck a kid up for life, but children also have a very rubber-like sense of dealing with things. They can snap into something and snap back really easily, and so this kid's been through a trauma, and so this kid has a pretty good chance of, this kid's got some problems, but he deals with it. But how does a person who was a teenager and now becomes, by the time the movie's over, is a 20-something, deal with such a horrible tragedy? And it's the complexity of the emotions in the movie is just fascinating, and the way it's told, it just, it starts as a very small movie and it opens up and sort of collapses again in a really fascinating way. I find it hard to describe it without you guys being able to bounce things off of me on it, so
Right.
I will go ahead and just say both of you need...
Yeah, you've already reviewed this. It's up on one of the early... It'll be up on SoundCloud soon. I know that. Episode.
All right, so with that said, Bill, you're number 2.
The Look of Silence.
God damn.
Darkness, my old friend.
Yes.
Yeah, really. Originally, this was going to be my number 1, but another movie took that spot pretty easily. Look of Silence, the follow-up to Joshua Oppenheimer's The Act of Killing, continues the trend, or continues the story, rather, of the Indonesian genocides that happened during the revolution.
In the mid-'60s.
But this time, instead of through the eyes of the leaders, the killers, basically, a family member of a victim, and as he's looking for answers, as he's looking for empathy, as he's looking for
An
uh,
explanation.
a reason to an explanation. He's looking for sanity. He's looking for something, humanity, And he's I guess he's an optometrist,
He's an
Yes.
Oppenheimerist.
He's an eye doctor, correct?
Yes.
He's an Oppenheimerist.
Yeah. There you go.
Yes, and he's helping people, even who committed the genocide. And then as he's doing this, he's also asking them questions like, well, where were you during this, and what happened, and blah, blah, blah,
It's a wonderful conceit to get them to open up, because all of these people who were alive during the time of this genocide are getting older, and as they're getting older, their eyes are, their vision is going. And so because this guy who went through this trauma is an eye doctor, he uses that as, and the filmmaker uses this as an excuse to go into the homes of these people who committed this genocide and engage them in conversation while they're seeing to the person's needs, for vision.
It's kind of a double, I don't know if it's a double entendre, but it's like a double meaning. As they're getting older, these people, their vision, their memory, their vision is blurry, towards
Right.
the past,
And to an extent, it's what they remember it as being, as opposed to what it really was. And
Right, they remembered it as being like, oh, we were triumphing against the bad communists, when really they just bought into the propaganda and were reveling in the violence, because they thought it was righteous in some ways, but when really that wasn't really the case.
And the sick truth is that most of the so-called communists were just people that, maybe they were neighbors you just didn't like very much, so you just told people, oh yeah, these are communists, let's kill them.
Right, it was like, it was like almost exactly what happened in America, just not genocidal, with the blacklist and with the so-called MacArthur witch hunts and the all that stuff.
Imagine Trumbo if everyone in that movie was fucking murdered.
In the most horrific ways possible.
Yeah.
Like their dicks cut off and shoved in their mouths or something
God.
like that. The movie really is horrifying, even though they don't show a lot of this stuff. It's horrifying more in the just disconnect, or not even disconnect, but the reveling in of these horror stories. Like they show footage of these guys being interviewed, and they're like, they're telling their stories like, oh no, I killed this guy right over here, and I used this kind of knife, and you have to really cut in a certain way, or else the guy's gonna give you more struggle than it's worth. So you got to really get in there quick, and I did it, and da 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 da, and that made me a hero, and da da da. And it kind of puts things into perspective, like World War II, for example, which I've always been taught was a righteous war, was a war that needed to be fought, because there was genuine evil at stake and everything, and we fought it, and we had to make some sacrifices, but we did it. And I was like, yeah, but does that make right some of the wrongs we did? You know what I mean? Like let's put it into perspective here. Internment camps, dropping nukes.
Firebombing cities of civilians.
Yeah.
Right. I know we're fighting Hitler. I know we're fighting Axis powers who want to take over the world, legitimately want to take over the world. I'm like, but do we have to stoop to their level? Like,
yeah, that's a good point.
Do we become monsters in the same token? I've seen documentaries with these World War II veterans, and they're like, no, we had to drop those bombs, otherwise it wouldn't have ended. I'm like, I don't know if that's the case.
Well, and there's an argument you can certainly make for that, but at the same time, the best example of that is firebombing cities in Japan, where you have cities full of civilians who are not. I mean, their contribution to the war effort at this point, like the factories they're supposed to be working in, are all destroyed. So we said, all right, well, let's just burn these villages. And it's worth noting that these cities in Japan at the time were all built mostly of wood. So when you drop firebombs, you are basically destroying everything in that city.
Yeah.
Completely. Just trouncing it. There were more people who were killed in the firebombing campaigns than were killed in the nuclear bombings of Nagasaki and Hiroshima.
Wow.
Many more people.
This podcast brought to you by Kicks.
This podcast,
mother approved.
This
firebombings.
Bill
Children.
Bill Leon's like, By the way, this podcast brought to you by Smackisma.
All right. We should probably move on from there. What's your number 2, Bill?
It's Inside Out.
All right.
Okay, all right.
Let me just. I'm gonna bitch about this more on Sunday. Plug for the Oscars stream on Sunday, but this should have been up for Best Picture, and my number 1 should have been up for Best Picture. And the fact that my number 1 is gonna lose to my number 2 in the Best Animated Feature category is also frustrating. Fuck the Oscars. Fuck those politics. It's all fucking bullshit. Why can't an animated movie take it? Why?
No, I agree totally. Why can't a documentary take it?
Why can't a documentary take it? Yeah, no, I mean it's ridiculous. It's fucking ridiculous.
You know what? I actually was just mentioning this. I was listening to Gilbert Gottfried's podcast, and the guest this week was are you familiar with Robert Wool?
I've heard the name, yeah.
Yeah, Robert Wool, the comedian and writer.
He played Arliss, didn't he?
Yeah, exactly. He's a member of the Academy and a voting member, and he was talking about how he votes in that episode. And it literally, I was angry because it was years of things that I've suspected come to life. Because he was talking about how he votes, and how he votes is incredibly politically. His first rule is, I vote for someone I know. Because I want to support people I know. And then when you think about it, that's like, okay, so how many other people in the voting academy do that? And the answer is probably every single one of them.
Okay.
He had other rules like never vote for someone who's a first-timer. Never vote for a child was another rule of his. Things like that.
We're gonna have some.
So the Academy is full of political assholes who have their own specific biases.
I think this year we're gonna do like a docket kind of thing and kind of make our Oscar stream more discussion based and play some games and stuff and make it more fun. I'd like to do that, but again, like everything that this has to do with is more Oscar based. With Inside Out. This is just an amazing execution of a great idea. That's super admirable. Pixar's been in a slump for a few years now. I know some people like Brave. I don't like Brave.
I thought it was all. Here's the thing. Even with the exception of Cars 2, Cars 2 was garbage.
Yes.
Their other movies were passable. Of the last couple of years, but it was a clear slump. They weren't as great as they could be. And what Inside Out did for me, Inside Out basically brought it back and said that this is Pixar. This is the Pixar that made Toy Story 3. This is the Pixar that made Up.
I'm afraid to, not afraid to. I'm afraid that when I rewatch Inside Out. That I'm going to cry. Because when I think back to that line, take her to the moon, Richard Kind is going to make me cry.
To the moon, Alice!
Not like that. No, see, you're ruining it right now.
I can tell you right now, fellow critics at my screening who were sitting next to me were crying, weeping publicly. And so you could hear people sniffling in the theater.
I do it all the time over cartoons. I
teared up a little bit.
I got super emotional watching the last episode of Gravity Falls. I didn't get that while watching Inside Out, but if I watch it again, it probably will get me that way.
And it's such a... I mean, honestly, this movie deserved an original screenplay nomination, too, because it's such an unusual storyline, and it's so well plotted out.
Yeah.
And the cast, I mean... Amy Poehler, Bill Hader, Lewis Black. You've got Mindy Kaling. Fucking Kyle MacLachlan's the father, and I mean
MacLachlan.
Richard Kind is Bing Bong.
Bing Bong.
Richard fucking Kind is Bing Bong, which.
And again, have you guys? I will say this about Brave, which is I like how Brave helps the Pixar theory work. And in terms of the Pixar theory. Bill, are you familiar with the Pixar theory?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. The way Inside Out fits into the Pixar theory is that Bing Bong might have been her monster post the laugh switch. So, like, Bing Bong was a fun monster that made her laugh.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Alright.
so because after Monsters Inc., laughs are found to be more powerful than.
And even if that's not the case, like it fits in there brilliantly. It's great. Inside Out, fucking.
Yeah, I think that's
Fucking.
fucking exact. Inside Out, fucking. Moving on to number one.
Alright.
All right, my number one is
The Good Dinosaur.
no.
That was a very good movie. I really liked it.
I really did enjoy The Good Dinosaur.
I'll have to watch it. Okay, based on you guys' recommendation, I will watch it.
Here's the thing. The problem with The Good Dinosaur is it came out after Inside Out. They
That's
should
very
have
true.
they should have released The Good Dinosaur and then Inside Out because people would be like, "Oh, The Good Dinosaur, okay, that was better than the last few Pixar movies." And then Inside Out would come out and they'd be like, "Holy shit, this is
That's like a big popcorn going in your face.
Yeah, The Good Dinosaur is definitely better than all those prior Pixar movies until, like Toy Story 3. But yeah. So anyway, point is, my number one is Beasts of No Nation.
Alright.
Have either of the Bills watched this?
Yeah, I've seen
Oh,
it.
you watched it. Okay, I haven't yet.
Simply put,
again, the same way I feel about Look of Silence and Act of Killing. Is this too intense for me? Is this something I should watch?
I think you can watch it. I mean,
Like
you
intense.
might tear up a little bit in some places,
That's not what I mean, though. I just mean like a lot of this type of shit, like a lot of this real world. The real world's terrible. Like that kind of stuff. Like
there's an optimistic end to it, sort of.
I like Idris Elba. I do like Idris Elba as a performer. So
it's a really great movie.
Yeah, it is a really great movie. And here's the thing: Idris Elba is very much a supporting character. The lead star of the movie is Abraham Atta, the child actor, and
is this like a Miles Teller Whiplash argument? Like, am I going to watch this and be like, well, it takes two, baby?
No, I think your only argument to that is that Idris Elba is the actor from the movie that you'll recognize. But the movie's full of wonderful actors who you've never heard of before. And really, Idris Elba's great in the movie, so don't get me wrong, but he was definitely the person cast in order to give the movie marquee value.
Would he have, if the Netflix bullshit and the Oscars didn't exist, would he have gotten a lead actor nomination or supporting actor nomination? If this was just like a regularly theatrically released film.
He probably would have gotten a lead actor nomination.
Yeah, the Oscars would be bullshit like that. They probably would have, but it's definitely not the case.
Bruce Dern, lead actor for Nebraska.
Right, but it really is the supporting monstrous performance.
And the thing about the film is it is beat for beat one of the most disturbing movies I've ever seen because it carries just it's a story of endurance and survival through just the most horrible of circumstances. It's about this boy who watches as his family is killed and then escapes into the woods only to be taken in by a surrogate family and the surrogate family just happens to be an army, a child army.
Oh.
And
2012.
Well, and yet the movie has this message of survival and learning to live again after just debilitating emotional trauma. And Abraham Atta is in a role that is so demanding of a kid. This movie should have been unfilmable because what this kid has to endure in the movie is say what you will about Leonardo DiCaprio going through shit in The Revenant.
This character's put through emotional trauma.
And there's a lot of physical trauma too.
Too, yes.
Yeah, you don't see any crazy stunt like swimming a frozen river, but this kid's going through the jungle carrying shit, going through these intense battle sequences that were very physically demanding of a kid like that. Yeah. And I have no doubt this movie is going to be a cult film that's going to catch on and grow in stature in the years to come, especially being available on Netflix. People are going to start watching and they're going to realize 2015 had a movie that no one talked about, and God knows why. That's my case. I've made my case for it. Bill Arsenault, what's your number one?
My number one is probably Bill Leon's number one, Anomalisa.
Anomalisa. Anomalisa. Animal space Lisa. Animal Lisa.
All right,
Sure.
talk about Animal Lisa.
I saw this film at the New Orleans Film Festival last year. It was like a surprise entrant, like we weren't really expecting it, and I didn't really know what it was about. I just knew Charlie Kaufman. No, in fact, there was very little press going into it about it, publicity. You know, it was just the poster of it was it just said Anomalisa. It didn't have an image, it didn't have any of that. So I just knew it was like stop motion animation. I think is what I heard. It's the
It was
speculation.
kickstarted. I remember hearing
Yeah, it was
about
kickstarted
I remember hearing about the Kickstarter.
as a short film, and then they were able to get funding, and they expanded it to a feature. And so I watched it, and the opening bit where they're on the airplane, I was hooked immediately. You know, I was like, okay, this is my kind of movie. My critic friend next to me was kind of baffled by it. He was kind of like, I mean, he appropriately baffled by it. He knew he liked it, but he was kind of like, I don't know. Movie made me feel weird. And I was like, it made me feel like exactly what I was expecting. Yeah, this is a fucking Charlie Kaufman, but it did more than that. It was the movie is very devastating from a human standpoint. You know, like just from a purely emotional, romantic. You know, where you're going in life and what you're doing with your life standpoint. That's kind of what I got from it. But when it comes to the main character, but when it came to Anomalisa, I felt it had kind of a happier, even though it was a little tragic, it was kind of a happier, like there's some good you can do with your life, and the case was Anomalisa. She showed the main character something he didn't want to see. He showed her something that she needed to see, and it was very touching, and also very very cleverly funny and dark at times, and one of the best well captured sex scenes you'll ever see, probably.
I can't even. I don't know what else to say.
Having sex, it would be ridiculous. But
you think Team America? You think Team America?
Right. Well, what else did you think, Bill? About
it's a fucking masterpiece, man. Ken, why isn't this on your top 10?
I'll tell you, honestly, it didn't emotionally connect with me that much. I felt that it was a very well-made, accomplished animated film. I thought the story was interesting. I thought it was cool that it shows his disconnect from the world and that everyone sounds the same. He's kind of he's kind of detached in that respect. It was interesting. There was something about it that didn't make me invested in watching this, this character and his life. And I think the ending kind of threw me off. So there are a few goofy, like the whole thing about the friggin' Japanese doll that spew's cum out its mouth. To me, was like a weird, like lowbrow joke within an otherwise higher brow movie. There wasn't much that drew me into the movie.
No, that's just there. Like, if anything, the ending stewed with me, and it didn't completely. Are we here? Are we on?
Yeah, you're here.
Yeah, we're here.
I thought you froze because I've been having fucking connection problems all day.
That ending is very contemplative. It's very, very much like a thinker. It kind of makes you think on yourself and think not just on the movie, but also what the movie means to you, but also what the movie is, what you're seeing in yourself through the movie. You know what I mean? Like Roger Ebert would say that movies are empathy machines. They make us connect with one another and ourselves and relate to one another and ourselves. And I think Anomalisa is very much like that. It's a perfect example of that.
I think maybe it's just a disconnect that I have with Charlie Kaufman in that I've liked a couple of his movies. Like I like Adaptation and Being John Malkovich.
Time out for a second, because I don't think Adaptation is hot shit.
Okay, well, on
Let
the
me
other
just
hand,
say that shit right the
all
fuck
well,
now.
on the other hand, you're a very big fan of Charlie Kaufman. You like, for instance, the
I think of two movies. There's Being John Malkovich, and there's Sunshine, Being Eternal Sunshine.
I love Synecdoche, New York.
I've never seen it.
I've watched Eternal Sunshine twice, and neither time could I emotionally connect to it. It just did not. Okay.
I've never seen that movie. Adaptation constantly. I have it on DVD somewhere. I've tried to watch it several times.
Fair enough. I'm not arguing the point. I'm just saying maybe it's my issue. I don't know. I enjoyed Anomalisa. I'm not saying that I didn't like the movie. It just wasn't.
Why didn't you like it more?
This wasn't a top fucking 10.
This was not, but this was not like me loving Charlie Kaufman. I legitimately, the moment where she morphs into Tom Noonan.
Very heartbreaking.
That's happened to me. That's many times, like that shit happens. There's a line in a Beatles song. I don't remember which one it is, but the line is
"Run as fast as you can, little girl."
No, that's
catch you with another man. That's the end, little girl.
That's some. I'm gonna beat you shit. I'm talking about the line. Love has a nasty habit of fading overnight.
Okay. Yeah.
What song is that from? It's on Rubber Soul. I know that. Why don't you?
I'm looking through you.
I'm looking through you. Great song.
I just had to look. Yeah, I'm looking through you. That is a great song. Yeah. I agree with you.
That lyric
actually,
is always...
in a way, you're right. Anomalisa is kind of like an adaptation of I'm Looking Through You. The song is literally about that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking through you. Where did you go? I thought I knew you. What did I know?
I just
don't
fucking
look
nailed that shit, bro.
I'm looking through you. You're not the same.
Could you imagine the song being sung by Fred Durst?
Oh my god. I can because he covered Behind Blue Eyes.
Behind Blue Eyes, no one knows what it's like to be the bad guy.
Yeah, it's like Eddie Vedder covering Love Reign Over Me.
Oh, that's way better than Fred Durst covering Behind Blue Eyes.
You're right. I'm giving him a hard time.
That's an incredible disservice to Eddie Vedder.
Yeah, I
Anomalisa, I hesitate a little bit, but I think it's a masterpiece. I think it's...
Okay. Fair enough. I'm not going to argue your point.
It's more human than human.
Yeah, and considering it's a stop-motion film, the fact that it's this underdog film, it's an animated film that, despite how good it is not up for Best Picture. The fact that it is genuine and it's human, like, for example, what is up for Best Picture? Is Carol up for Best Picture?
No.
Really?
It's more human than that shit. It's more. I haven't seen Brooklyn, but I would assume it's, The
nominees for Best Picture, there's 8 of them this year. Room, Spotlight, Bridge of Spies, The Martian, Mad Max Fury Road, The Big Short, The Revenant, and Brooklyn. All of which are decent movies. I can't complain about those movies being on the list. Now, I will say, though, that the movies I would remove from the list in place of others, I would remove Bridge of Spies, The Martian, Brooklyn, and maybe The Big Short. I might also kick that off.
And fill them up with animated films and documentaries.
Yeah, I mean, see my top 5. But
I put The Boy Next Door in there. That was a fucking masterpiece.
Oh yeah.
So with that said, we are running over time today.
Yeah, well.
So I do want to thank you for joining us on this MovieBoozer.com. We will see you on Sunday for the Oscars, if you care to watch as we comment arbitrarily upon the Oscar film type viewing thing.
We're going to get Oscar viewers. Yeah, we're going to get Oscar viewers, but nobody that's watching this.
All right.
All right, take it easy.
Take it sleazy, everyone.
Yeah.